I'm Scott L. Miller. It is Monday night, and it is time for the Nicaragua Live. This week, we're going to be talking about the riots going on in Guatemala. We've had some major things going on there, and we're just going to be answering some of your questions because we're doing an impromptu live. I was incredibly sick yesterday, had a migraine, I think, that led to nausea, and I ended up sleeping 14 hours. No time to do show prep, so we're doing a live today. That's where these lives are so fantastic. They allow me to deal with these little hiccups that come along, so I'm very appreciative of them. Just gonna hop on here and do our regular letting people know about the live show so that they can jump on and let's get it rolling. So how's everybody doing? Looking forward to seeing everybody this week. And I don't have anybody on yet, but just gonna have some water because I am sick. But feeling much better today. Yesterday was absolutely atrocious, so I'm a bit behind on work, which of course adds up as I get sick. Then there's more to do and more to do, more to do. Janet is here. She says, "Oh, thank goodness." We've actually had a pretty incredible week here on the show. We've had massive amount of views, a massive amount of new subscribers. Tony's here. Hey, Tony, how's it going? Just from a how's the show doing? You know, over the last year or so, I've really focused a lot less on the show, which I know sounds crazy because we've done just a ton of lives, and we haven't missed a day, and we're coming up on 5 years without missing a day on the show. But there's spending a lot of time on the show, and then there's just getting it out every day. And this last year has been a lot of grind, I think, getting it out every day. And it shows that we keep growing, but it's a very slow growth. And over the last couple weeks, we're really starting at the new year. I've really put in a lot more effort and just hitting it a lot harder, and we've got more topics going on. I think we're becoming more important as a platform, and so we're seeing that kind of return to our old levels of numbers, which is exciting because, of course, it's difficult doing the show all the time. At some point, I get worn out, and when there's a ton going on and a lot of growth, it gets exciting. But my work life needs me, and that takes a lot of my focus as well. So it gets difficult. We're finding new ways to streamline doing the show, and these impromptu lives are part of that. And I'm doing a lot of thumbnail generation much more quickly. That's helping in a lot of ways, and just a lot of little things I'm able to automate now, and a lot of things I have figured out just because I've been doing this a long time. So it has gotten easier. So putting in some new effort is easier than before, and I'm feeling better, so hoping that I'm going to be able to get out and get walking. Yesterday, of course, like most days, I'm like, I'm going to go out and walk today. I'm going to get some filming, and then I was basically unable to stand up or keep my eyes open yesterday. So that was rough, but after 14 hours, doing much better. Again, probably just a migraine. I don't know. That's the only thing that really makes sense. There was no fever or anything, so yeah. Anyway, so I am feeling much better. Thanks, everyone. Morrison Adams, Jillian is here. We're ready to hit it. So the big news going on, and I'm going to jump. I'm mostly going to do. We don't have too much to talk about with Guatemala, although it is interesting. I'm either going to be answering questions or going into the old questions on the live stream as we do, and knocking some of them out. So that is the plan here on a Monday. It's a fun day when there's so many people hopping on that I can actually see the subscription numbers going up as I'm sitting here. Normally, it's like, throughout the day you see a little bit of growth, and once in a while you see negative growth. That's very rare. Even on the days where people are like, say goodbye to your audience, I'm like, well, it just didn't grow as fast as normal, right? But today, it's we're gaining every few minutes, so it's pretty cool. It's fun when it's like that. So we're going to hop right in with these questions as soon as we can. Oh, Ken says, "Hi, Scott. We're coming there on the 18th of February. Where in Leon is your office? We can contact you about renting a place. You're in real estate." Thank you. I am not in real estate. I know it feels that way, but I have no office. Well, I do, but it's a software engineering office, and we don't do real estate. So not a thing we do. I'm very, very much a not do real estate person. That is very much. Oh, I'm doing a live and Paul pops in, always.
Oh,
I should know that I'm doing the live and you're going to pop in.
exactly. I never show myself on camera.
And he's never on camera.
Hello.
Yep, there he is. I haven't seen you all day.
Yeah, I know. You've been.
Well, I
sick.
slept 14 hours and then worked. I was basically in one continuous meeting until just now. So
What are we talking about tonight?
tonight, riots in Guatemala.
Riots in Guatemala.
Yeah. 5 prisons broke into riots, spilled out into the streets. They've gone to state of emergency and are under martial law for the next 30 days. That's the news. You heard it here.
Wait, two things.
Yeah.
What about the stuff happening in Minneapolis?
Right. Well, it's kind of a spillover from that because it's not Guatemalans rioting, it's Americans. It's DAC-8, the American cartel from Los Angeles, is the one rioting in Guatemala and trying to take over the streets. And so they are militarized on the streets right now in Guatemala, trying to keep people safe. Janet and Jillian say, hey, Paul.
Hello.
Awesome. Carrillo Clan says hello from Miami.
Hello.
Milton asks, are you using AI for the new images? They're very creative. Thank you. They are AI, but I'm the creativity.
Oh, there you go.
I come up with the creative things. The AI expresses my creativity for everything except Thursdays. Thursdays, it is my daughter who draws them. She refuses to let me use AI for the planned ones and comes up with one every week. But for the impromptus where I'm throwing them together quickly, that is the AI.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. So no, for Kenneth, I do not do real estate. I very carefully stay out of that. I would love to. I think real estate's like super fun and interesting. My wife was a realtor back in the day in the States. And I always thought about doing it because I love homes. I mean, I think that comes through on the show, right? I really find the whole thing interesting and fun. I love looking at homes. I love showing homes. I'm not in no way good at it, right? But I love like home decor and decorating. I love seeing or being in a really well decorated home. I really enjoy that. I myself am not creative in that way. I'm just a partaker of that. But I'm also not a house designer. I couldn't design a good house to save my life, but I know what it feels like when I'm in one, right? So it's a thing that I love, but there's no way to make a career out of it here legitimately. There's just not enough money in legitimate real estate. The houses, when you have a nice house and it's selling for $40,000, the amount I would have to charge someone to make it worth my time for the amount I'd have to put into it would be way too much as a percentage on the house. You'd be better off buying 2 houses and just taking the one you like better and maybe renting the other one out or something, right? You'd have to pay me such a large percentage. It wouldn't be helpful. The thing that I can do is hook you up with really important resources that you might need if you're going to be in this area, which you are, so I can do that. Is hook you up with an attorney if that's someone you need for doing paperwork. I can point you in some directions. I do have someone on my staff. If you need someone to just help you tour around and talk to people, I can find someone to help you with that kind of stuff on a daily rate. But we're not specifically in real estate. Definitely don't represent any properties or anything like that. I am a real estate investor here, so I have insight that a lot of people don't have. I think a lot of people have the insight, but I have like nuts and bolts, when the rubber is really hitting the ground and we're really negotiating. We've seen that over a many periods of years. I've been renting here since 2015. I've been renting commercially here since 2016. I've been staffing here since 2016. I've been in the investment market since 2019, as in real estate and hospitality investment. So those aren't huge time frames, but they're far more than most people, and it's very rare to have someone who is continuing to invest. A lot of times you get people who invested once and they're just happy with it, or you get people who invested and got out, or you get people who invested and then were like no, and then they invested somewhere else, like they sold that and moved on to something else. Whereas I've come in and there have been things that have not worked out, but I have continuously invested. I keep investing in new places, both purchasing and constructing. So that does give me a unique perspective, I think, on the market, or a relatively one. But because I'm not in the business, I don't have this absolute need to make my money there by selling my services on that. Whereas someone working in real estate directly, their income has to come from that And if they had the money to invest, they wouldn't be doing that, right? So it's kind of a catch-22 in this market, and that's just unfortunate. It's very, very difficult, and it's one of the reasons why essentially you'll never find a good buyer's agent, because the amount of money they would have to charge you to be able to do what they do well would be so astronomically high that it would be nonsensical, and you'd still have to completely trust them without any guardrails to not do what was in their best interest to look out for you. The combination is just terrible. And so being who I am, I do need to pay the bills and would not ever feel good doing that. So I don't. But I'm happy to give advice where I can and help people understand what the costs really are. Now, you're just talking about renting a place, so you have much fewer requirements. We can talk about this on the show right now. Kenneth, what kind of places? This is coming up. This is you're within the month, so you're well within the real places that are available now. Could be reasonable. What kind of place are you looking for rent? We can talk about it. And while you're writing that, hopefully, we're going to hit Rojo Traveler from 3 days ago and try to pop this on the show. We are at, anyone know where we are? We are at 11 minutes. He says, hi, Scott. What do you think the average cost of living per month would be if I lived in the mountains or rainforest north of Esteli, if I used public transportation and was staying in a single-bedroom house? So that's going to be a real tough one because the biggest thing is your food. What are you doing cooking at home and that kind of stuff? There's so much variation. If you're on a budget, let's talk about a few different scenarios. If you're on a serious budget, so first of all, one-bedroom house, most people who watch my show a lot are aware one-bedrooms are really hard to come by. You basically have to assume a two-bedroom, especially with a house. But even with a rental apartment, like traditional apartment, one-bedrooms are crazy rare here. Of course they exist, but very rare. Studios are more common than one-bedrooms and still pretty rare. But a two-bedroom is kind of just where things are. The prices are very low, so that's doable. Esteli is on the expensive side, but he's talking about being outside the city. So I would assume there's some room here, some wiggle room. If you can find a place, and it's going to be hard, my expectation is that you would be at $200 per month or less. If you really hunt around and know what you're doing and are willing to take a really small spot, 100 is plausible. Right, if you really know what you're doing, if you've got a Nicaraguan or whatever who is doing the shopping for you, but if you have, if you're doing this yourself and looking at Facebook Marketplace or walking around, and you're obviously a gringo, which I'm just guessing, right, because you typed in English, but and you're a visitor, right? I'm assuming you're not coming from Honduras. Maybe that's wrong, but. You're probably, just realistically, budgeting closer to 200, probably going to make sense. Here in Leon, 200 would be pretty easy to hit. And that's for a small two-bedroom, right? So not a one-bedroom. If you could find that, who knows? It might be super expensive because it's rare. Public transportation is going to cost you basically nothing, as long as you're in a spot where there's a bus coming by, because that'll be the local buses, right? We're not talking about distant buses. And... So it really comes down to food. Now, assuming you're staying outside of the city, you're really looking, hold on, just a two-bedroom apartment for a month at no more than 30. Than 30? Sorry, just reading Kenneth's note. So if you're cooking at home, some people are like, I don't even know why you could hit $200 for food, but those of us who actually live here are like, a normal trip to the grocery store could be $300. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. It depends what you're eating, right? Are you getting a bunch of I want fancy yogurt, I want American cereal, I want, a steak. Your prices, you're going to, it's going to be cheaper than North America, but you're going to have a big food budget. If you're like, I just love eggs, rice and beans, the local cheese, I'll fry it up in the pan at home. I'm happy to eat more or less the same things every day. I'm going to have chicken the way locals do. Locals eat for under $100 in a month quite often, and almost always under $200 for a month. But you're working at it to stay under those prices. It's so weird. I've had some North Americans be like, I don't know how anyone hits 200. And I'm like, I can hit 200 in a day. What are you talking about? I'm not going to normally, but, yesterday my daughter and I scratch made homemade focaccia pizza. Did it cost $80? No, but it certainly cost 15, right? And if we did that every day, it was one meal. That's, 450 right there. Or, yeah, like it adds, okay. I see, Kenneth. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's, if you're trying really hard to keep your budget really low, getting a budget for long-term living, we're assuming long-term, so you're renting, you're buying furniture at some point up front, ignoring the upfront purchasing of your furniture, your TV and that stuff. Let's say your rent's $200, right? Don't budget less than that. Let's say your food is $300. Don't budget less than that. Let's say your incidental expenses, right? Power, water, internet are a minimum of $100, right? I think we're up to $600. Assume $50 a month for transportation. That might end up being way too much, right? We're just throwing ballpark numbers out there. And then you're going to want a little bit for, save up for clothes or whatever. $750 seems pretty reasonable, right? Could you survive less than that? Obviously, right? Nicaraguans often survive for just under, say, $250 a month. But it's a rough life, right? It's very, very difficult, and they're generally living with family and doing a lot of things to mitigate that incredibly low income. I have people on the channel who own houses here and are able to live on a monthly budget, including a car, of under 800 or about 800, right? Are they being careful with it? Yeah, absolutely. But are they able to do it? Yeah, for sure. And 800 gets you into the middle class range of Nicaraguans, right? Nicaraguans who live at 800 are able to eat healthy meals without worrying, pay their rent without worrying, have good internet for home, no problem. Nice, fast, solid internet. They are able to go out and go out to eat and go out for beers and stuff on a regular basis and have normal entertainment. They are able to take vacations and go places on the weekends. Are they able to splurge? No, not very often. Are they living with lots of buffer? No, not very often. But it just squeaks into the middle class. And so you're going to be struggling in the same way. But if you want to live like a middle-class Nicaraguan, you're going to need closer to 1,000, right? As a foreigner, you're going to pay a little bit more for things. But middle-class Nicaraguans are not using that budget to live with family normally. They are living on their own, typically. And that's for one person, right? We're not talking about a family. If you have a family of 4, obviously that budget would be higher. Or hopefully that you understand that's what we're talking about. So it kind of gives you an idea. Like at 500, you would not die, but you may not like it. At 800, I think you could live pretty decently well. If you could get a budget closer to 1,200, you'd be like, this is super comfy. And anything above there just gets nicer and nicer, right? It starts getting maybe I want a bigger place. Maybe I want to go out to eat more often. Maybe I'm going to eat higher quality food, or not quality food, more variety of food, more brought in from the mountains food, more brought in from Guatemala food or whatever. I want raspberries, right? We don't grow that down here. You got to bring it in. Well, Esteli, they might, and so forth. So there's a lot of those little lifestyle things, but that budget is very, very plausible. So I hope that answered your question. Feel free to ask more, or hopefully you're on the live stream and can ask there. Can you tell me of someone who can help find a place for a month? I really don't know anyone who legitimately can. That's the problem, is that nobody who will really help you is able to do that, right? So Marcella from my channel, she can help on a daily basis. Like if you bring her in for a couple days and pay her to hunt around for a place, she can do that. She's just off the street. She's not a rental agent. She's not, she doesn't have any real estate ties, but she looks for property here all the time and speaks Spanish and understands mostly what people need. So she has she's used to going on Facebook Marketplace. She's used to dealing with the seller's agents, because while you don't want to have a buyer's agent, seller's agents sometimes are unavoidable. She knows most of the ones in town. She lives here in Leon. She understands how the real estate things work, and she knows the lawyers, so she knows when to hand things off to them or whatever. So that's a plausible way to go. But that's kind of it, right? Like a buyer's agent, like you're used to with real estate, you really want to avoid that, because what they're going to do, what they do universally. Sorry, something bit me today. It's really bothering me. I think like an ant. what you really get from the buyer's agents is they have a massive incentive to raise your rent. So you'll find a place that could go anywhere for 200, and they'll be like, well, I know their budget's 300, so I'm going to convince the people, or I'm going to say it's 280. And then they're going to collect a commission from you for the sale and get 280. And then they're going to go to the person who's actually renting it out and say it's 200, and they're going to slip someone in between and collect $80 a month, right? And so that's the potential. Like the person who makes all the money could be the real estate agent. Like could make such a huge percentage from you, and make in reality as much profit as the person who actually has the property. If you don't know what you're doing, so you have to be really, really careful there. The prices can end up skyrocketing. Patricia says, hola, this is the first I'm hearing about the riots in Guatemala. Yeah, they broke out last night. It's the 18, the U.S. cartel is trying to take control of 5 prisons. I've heard that they've mostly got it under control. A lot of cops are dead, like 10 cops were killed. And that was last night. I haven't heard of more today. And they ended up rioting in the streets. So I know Guatemala City and some others had military deploying to the streets to try to get things under control. So martial law for the next 30 days. So Kenneth says just a 2-bedroom apartment for a month at no more than 300. Okay, so for a month, this is where things get really hard. You cannot talk to anybody for a 1 month, right? So in Nicaragua, a normal rental apartment starts at 6 months, and that's pushing it. They want 12, but you can do 6. What you're talking about is a short term. The only answer there is Airbnb, right? And 300 is going to be really hard because if you think about it, a house or an apartment, right? A 2-bed apartment, if I'm renting on a year basis, one of the best deals I found was 180, but that's unfurnished. And so you assume with furnished, everything doubles minimum because the furnishings cost as much, especially on a short term, they can quite literally, the furnishings can cost 10 times what the real estate does. So as someone who has rented apartments, I'm on the other side. The building and the space is a tiny fraction of the cost of the appliances. So if you're thinking about, so my apartment that I had here, the one that I rented for years, I use as an example all the time. I rented that for 3 years at $180 a month. The internet is extra. The power is extra. None of them are big, right? Internet's $35. Power's 10, 12. Water, 2, right? They're tiny numbers. But those are things that I had to pay on top of the 180. I also had to provide my own air conditioning. That's normal. You assume you're going to bring your own. So when you're getting those kinds of prices, you're assuming unfurnished. Once you go furnished, you're generally looking at really large numbers. It's possible to get smaller, but generally $500-600 a month, at least, because no matter what you're doing, that refrigerator, all those things, they have big costs. As we've seen on the channel, we had someone who rented a $200 house, took out a year lease. I don't know, maybe it was $250, but it was way less than $300. Rented a place on a year lease, stayed less than 2 weeks, did $3,000 of damage to the rental apartment, and fled the country. Right now, that was unfurnished, so he did $3,000 of damage to the structure. Imagine had there been a refrigerator, air conditioning units, other things for him to damage. He could have done $7,000-8,000 worth of damage, and it would have taken 8 to 10 years of continuous rentals for the people who own the place to pay it off. And so the risk of short-term rentals that are furnished is outrageously high. And so there's very little that can be done to get a short-term rental. The mechanism that's used for that is Airbnb, because Airbnb tracks the renters, requires credit cards, and has insurance. All things that are essentially impossible for a local renter to do. So I don't know what Airbnbs are like here in town for a month. You certainly can get them way below the daily rate. But Airbnb is the mechanism, right? That's what all the locals use. People do not rent on a monthly basis here. And so if it was me doing it, it's Airbnb is what I would use. Right. Now, the way you do it is Just pop in here. Sometimes they actually have listed monthly rates. They do. Okay, so I just put in for a while. We're going to hop over and actually look at this because this is a great example in real time. I have no idea what we're going to find. I've got a... Nope. Just set this up to accept Airbnb. Perfect. All right, we ready? I think it works. There we go. Sorry for the flicker. Okay, so this is just looking at, so this is with monthly, right? You can see if this was not monthly, it would come out to 1,950, but it detected that I wanted a monthly rate. So you can see it was basically $1,000 off. This is a loft at Tenali House, comes for $964. That's a 1-bedroom. Looks nice. Tony says his in March was $700 range. Tony, was that on Airbnb? Patricia says if I was going to be in Nicaragua for a month, I'd look for Airbnb with good reviews. Exactly. That's what we would do. Dream house here, only $212 a month, but I think it's a room. I don't think it's a house. I could be wrong, right? So totally worth looking into. But from the look of this, it looks like it's a room. Sometimes these are difficult to tell. You can hop into it and see what it says. No, we don't want a translation. 2 guests, 1 bedroom, 2 beds, 1 private bath. We share a room with a full bathroom. That is it. It is just a room, not a house, as pretty much expected. But that's a room for $212, but there's nothing to be furnished. Here's a room, $581 for a month. Here's an apartment, still just a 1-bedroom. Where is this one? Minimalist apartment 1 for $1,286. I do not recognize this place. Wait a second. Or do I? No, I do not recognize this place. How nicely apartmented. The Regina Luxury Apartments. I do not know where these are. These look really nice. Totally out of your price range, obviously, but this is a very nice apartment. In Leon? Anybody familiar with these? How do I get back? Oh, it's not there, but the Regina Luxury Apartments. Oh, it's way up. Oh, but look at where it is. It's in Barrio San Felipe. Weird. So it's a barrio, but luxury apartments out there in the barrio. Now this is Fatima up here. So it's not a terrible location, but it is in the barrio. This one says it's a 1-bedroom home, 1,000. Full apartment, but just 1 bedroom, 1,200. Patricia says we can filter this and only see that. Yeah, that's true. Let's see, filters. Entire home. Show all 89. There we go. Here's a condo at Regina again, 1,300. Apartment centrally located for 1,400. Oh, this is not bad looking. High ceilings. Neat loft. Ooh, that's a cool looking place. There's a 3-bed home for $824 way up north. Now this is, you'd have to have a car for sure. That's nice but weird. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's mostly the same stuff over and over. All right, not a lot. Oh, a lot of pictures, but it's $2,700. Sandra. Oh, yeah. There's some luxury places way up there. Home in Leon, mom's house, 3-bedroom, $1,600. Let's do a filter and see what we can get down to for the cheapest couple. Show 4 homes, the 4 cheapest, 824, 964, 1,062, and 1,070. Those are the cheapest 1-month rentals that we're aware of. I doubt Cancun would be cheaper. It might be because it's all slum. So there is no bit of Cancun nice enough to be the worst slum in Leon. And I mean that in every way. But yeah, I would expect you could get cheaper 1 month in Cancun. The market is so completely different. Short-term rentals, and I have videos on just why short-term rentals are impossible here. It is crazy expensive and difficult to do short-term rentals. And even we used to rent out the place that I had for $180 for months. We would rent it out at $500, and at $500, my business partner is like, it's not worth renting it out. We're not making a penny, and why put up? It's huge amounts of risk and effort, and we're lucky to make a couple bucks because there's so much that goes into it. So it's a difficult market. It really is for short term. Luckily, we get very few short term, but that's also it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We have no short-term options, so people stop seeking short-term. People never did seek short-term, so no one provides short-term options. Basically, the hotels end up filling that gap. The hotels are not very expensive. So when you think about the fact that a hostel can do a room at $10 and get to the 300 mark, that's basically where you end up because they're able to do it with smaller space, and they're able to oversee it and have some controls. So it's the least expensive way to do it. Getting an entire apartment for less than the cost of a hostel at higher risk is difficult. And part of it is the market. In Mexico, I'm sure if you trash a place and try to flee the country, they probably have really good controls to stop you. Here, it's a lot harder to, catch someone at the airport. Almost everyone's just going to cross on foot over a border and be gone. And that's literally what we had happen, right? The time that we tried to stop someone, we called the border, but they couldn't stop. They had already reached the border and crossed it because it's just a few hours, and it was just stepping over the border into Costa Rica, and they were gone. And so and it wasn't us that it happened to, right? They tried to set some people up and tried to make it look like some Nicaraguans had done the damage. And so we had figured out that was happening. It was a whole, it was like a conspiracy, but it was one guy, just one guy trying to create as much mayhem. He's just a really, really hateful person, and wanted to do as much damage to everyone that he could. And it was a mess. So it's a huge, really unfortunate that we don't have good answers for this, but we don't. And it is what it is. So this is where Nicaragua really suffers. And this is why we say quite often you want to do hotel to Airbnb to long-term rental. And you want to buy your appliances. The moment you want to be in Nicaragua, you want to do that long-term rental, and you want to buy those appliances because the cost of renting furniture is so high that, and the furniture you're going to get is so unlikely to be what you want, that the value to owning your own, once you're pretty darn sure you're going to stay for a year, you're going to break even. But you're going to enjoy owning your own brand new stuff the whole time that fits your needs. And if you stay that second year, huge windfall. You stay for 5 years, the windfall's crazy, right? We bought all of our stuff in about the first year. It was over the course of the first year. We already owned some stuff, so we were in a position where we could kind of ease into it. And obviously, you still buy things from time to time. We just bought, our espresso machine recently. But in general, we bought our fridge, we bought our, stove, we bought our whatever early on. And so every place we've moved, we took that stuff with us. And so it made moving so much easier. Now, if you're you got to move to a new place, it's like, I got paid for $50 for a truck to move me someplace. Here I am, all of my stuff, right? All my couches, all my and we've at one point stocked an apartment and then we moved out of it. So we keep enough stuff to stock the house and an apartment. And we still actually need a lot more furniture. We have whole parts of our house that are not furnished. We only furnish about half of this house. We furnish all the bedrooms. Even that's pushing it. We mostly furnish all the bedrooms. We barely, marginally could be considered to furnish half of one of the 2 living rooms. We only furnish the 7 main bedrooms, mostly. We fully furnish 6, partially furnish the 7th, don't furnish 2 at all, have 1 living room with not a single piece of furniture, and so forth. Like, we could do so much more. We just don't need to. Maybe they are AI. They might be. They didn't look like it, but these days it's getting harder and harder to tell. Jan says, I've seen the picture online before, but never in person, those luxury apartments. The one had a person in it that looked local, so like she was wearing stuff and looked like you would see here. Expat says, I know it varies, but on average, what is a total budget for 1 month for a first-time visitor from the U.S.? Do you mean as a permanent person? Like, it's your first time coming from the U.S., I'm settled in, what are my months going to look like? Or I'm coming for 1 month, what's it going to look like? Elvis Gonzalez says, Airbnb in Nicaragua are very affordable. They are for the most part. However, I would say that, like, when I'm in, as someone mentioned, it might have been Expat, if I'm in Mexico, I'm expecting it to be a little bit cheaper. If I'm in Bolivia, it's definitely cheaper. Half, maybe. It's decently expensive, actually, in Nicaragua. Not bad, but, like, it's not the super cheap you would expect. Not at all. And as someone on Airbnb, like, everything's just costly. Someone asked, why are there riots going on? Reasons? So in Guatemala, the issue is with the American cartel, DSE8, which is a Los Angeles street gang. It's represented in basically every country in the region, notably not Costa Rica and Nicaragua. We're a cartel-free zone, which is actually really neat. And, like, I've heard from insiders, like, it's actually a cartel-free zone, not just in this, like, kind of loose way that we use that term, and which we do use it meaningfully, but, like, the major cartels recognize it as no man's land. It is a nobody messes with Nicaragua zone, and they, like, all kind of agree that first of all, it's small pickings, right? And it's a place that will put up a fight. They're not going to let the U.S. pressure them to bring them in. And so this is very notably, truly not cartel land. When miles away in Honduras, they're right up to the border, right? It is a completely different world. So every country north of us, including Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, and the U.S., and Canada, all have DSE8, and Panama, and many countries to the south, and a few in Europe. And I think Thailand. Don't quote me on that one. But it's shocking how many countries they're in. But in this entire region, Northern South America and all of North America, Nicaragua and Costa Rica are the only ones with none. Look them up on Wikipedia. They don't talk about why there's a gap, but they note the gap. It's really interesting just how much we don't have that violence here. And basically, like, if someone from DSE8 comes here, they have to, like, not be cartel. Right? It's like, oh, you see another person, you're like, hey, that's it. Like, it's a no one says a thing. No one, like, it's really, really interesting the degree that it all stops when you get to the border. But up in Guatemala, they claim the impetus is some silly thing. They wanted someone moved to a different prison, blah, blah, blah. But the timing is awfully coincidental that the U.S. government has been talking about clearing the airspace for military strikes over Central America, and then a U.S. Street gang that was formed by the CIA, look it up, Like look it up from Congress, don't even trust Wikipedia on this. Go look at congressional records on this one. Totally like the mind-blowing Congress pissed off because the CIA paid for cartels to be formed to launder money to get around the Congress. So a U.S.-backed street gang from the U.S., like an actual Los Angeles-run street gang, is suddenly rioting in Guatemala within 48 hours of the U.S. announcing they're going to do military action in Central America. It could be coincidence, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be, right? So the reason that they actually gave for the riots feels stupid. But I don't know enough about gang politics. Maybe it was a big deal. Elvis says, well, compared to the USA. Yes, compared to the USA, our Airbnbs are quite cheap, but compared to most of the neighboring countries, not Costa Rica and Panama, but compared to like a Colombia, a Honduras, a Guatemala, Mexico, they're not like, whoa, they're just, oh, I thought they'd be a lot less. They're actually a little more. Extra says, airfare, hotel, food, etc. for 1 month on average. Yeah, it depends on the person, but what is the average? That's a tough one. Oh, Free Coach says, hey, Scott, glad to be back in your live. Well, thank you. Glad to have you back as well. And glad to not be dying from the migraine I had yesterday. So that is a tough one, Expozaz, but airfare. So if you're me, flying in and out, I normally get to do the round trip. Let's just say 400. Sometimes I get a lot cheaper, but let's say 400. I'm cheap on my flights, but that's what I really get. My personal average is probably closer to $350 round trip. Hotel. This is where it gets expensive. If you're me and staying in hotels, and I'm doing a month, and I'm doing the Nicaragua thing, I'm probably going to be dropping 60, 65 a night, right? Which adds up fast, right? That's more than 2,000. But if I'm staying in hotels, that's often what I'm going to do. If I needed to spend a lot less, I sure could. If I needed to spend more, I'm pretty good at that too. When I stay in Belize, I'm normally at $250 a night, just by comparison. When I go to Managua with my kids, I'm often $150, right? But we're normally doing really nice places. We're staying at the Doubletree. We're staying at the Wyack. We're staying at the Neat, which is really nice. Right. It depends what I'm doing, but I will pretty typically over the course of a month, if I'm going around the country and doing stuff, it would be rare for me to be spending under, say, 40 a night. And there's times that you're going to be hitting higher. So budget 2,000, I would say, at least for that, or as an average. Food. You're definitely not cooking for yourself because you mentioned hotels, and it's 1 month. Who's going to cook for themselves? Like 1 month, you're not going to have enough time to experience all the food you're going to want to experience, right? Even though I complain about the variety being low, it's certainly not 1 month going around the country low. So you're going to be wanting to spend your breakfast. You're not going to hit $10. You're just not. A lot of times it's going to be with that hotel, right? The hotel's kind of expensive, but generally they're giving you breakfast. Take advantage of that. Breakfast here doesn't generally get really varied. Once in a while, when you find a place that does really good breakfast, Cafe Molino, Barrio Cafe, someplace like that, you really want to experience their breakfast. Normally you can get it on an early lunch. So get up early, get your free breakfast from the hotel, because almost always that's included here. Most places too, but even more so here. And then hit up one of those places and do like a brunch kind of thing and experience that. It won't be too bad. Marcos just wanted to know what airlines I use, and it's tough these days, and I don't fly to the US anymore, but I did up until a year ago. I always use Spirit, and I've got the Spirit credit card, and I'm a member and everything, which now I have to give up because there's no reason to ever fly it again. They don't go anywhere, but I have had nothing but amazing experiences for my entire time in Nicaragua with Spirit. We switched to them in 2015. We had never flown them before. We were here in Nicaragua. In 2015, we had a family emergency. Our previously used airlines, they didn't screw us over. They just treated us like dirt. And we were like, wow, this is terrible. And shopped around really quickly. We had hours to get out of the country. And Spirit was like, we can't really give you a deal. 150 is just our price. And we're like, what? Yes, and they were so good, and we're like, why are we paying $1,000 for a flight? This $150 flight was better, and the people were nice. What the heck? Why? Why have we ever used another airline? We never used anyone else again if we could help it. Spirit has been 100% fantastic for 11 years. And my wife just flew back on them. I wasn't there, but she went to the U.S. and she's heading back for something else. Spirit every time. Every time's been great, and every time we haven't found something cheaper. We have been stuck with other airlines because Spirit wasn't available. Like, they were shut down for a while. We had to fly Avianca. Screwed us over several times. I've had plenty of good experiences on Avianca, but a lot of getting screwed over, too. American, never had a bad experience, must say. Had some great ones, but their prices here are higher and the flights are fewer, but they've always been a good airlines for me. United never completely screwed us over, but doesn't treat us well. Aeromexico, I love, but they're super expensive. So those are kind of, but Spirit, the combination of fantastic service, comfy, cheap. Yeah. So back to the food. So food, figure $10 for breakfast just to make sure you have that option. Lunch, you're probably going to be 15, 20. Like, you're on vacation, right? It's 1 month. You're gonna spend food. And then for dinner, probably 20, 25. So budget somewhere in the $50 to $60 per day for meals. And of course, if you're like me, I don't generally want to eat 3 meals in a day, so that cuts way back. Often I'm getting that free breakfast because I'm cheap. Okay, maybe I'm only having dinner, and often it only costs me $15. Your budget could be $15. It could be $10 if you're on a budget, right? Easily. But you kind of want that option of being able to eat and be like, oh my gosh, I'm just loving this food, and there's 20 restaurants I want to try, so I'm going to squeeze them in, and you're going to keep eating. Or you could be like my friend April, and every place she goes, she orders 3 entire dinners, which is also something that crazy person who did $3,000 of damage to that apartment did. He was like, I have to be on this super tight budget, but every time he went somewhere, he would just order food and throw it away because he was some kind of prima donna that needed to see a table full of food everywhere he went. Real story. And we have a whole video on him. And then transportation is going to be all over the map depending on how you want to travel. Even as a kind of premium traveler, which I'm giving you a budget for that, in many cases, you're not going to want to spend that much on transportation. It's not like you can hop luxury flights around the country. It's not an option. So your choices are private transport or some kind of shuttle or public transport. And honestly, for most of your travel, public transport's really nice. It's great. Like, it's not something to like worry about. So often just do that. Like, if I'm going between Managua and Leon, Managua and Granada, Masaya and Hinotepe and Chinandega, all of those, Uca bus, $3 is like the most expensive trip in their entire route. Maybe $3.50, and if you had to do a double, like you're going from Granada to Masaya to Managua and then switching to Managua, Leon to Chinandega, you're still only looking at under $6 for that entire route, and can all be done in one day, all be done in one morning, and without a taxi anywhere, right? But maybe when you get to Leon or Chinandega at your very final destination. But even if I was going from the Ruben del Rio, which I would love to stay at in downtown Granada, I can walk from there easily to the Uca terminal, take Uca all the way to Managua. It's a 20-foot walk between the one bus and the other. Hop on the bus to Chinandega, take it all the way to Chinandega, and then I've been sitting on a bus for all that time. I'm happy to walk as long as I've got luggage that I can throw on my back, like a nice backpack or something. I could walk to the Ferriones. I could walk to the Portales, one of those luxury hotels that I like to stay at in Chinandega. You're talking about crossing huge swaths of the country and never even needing a taxi. If those are the things you're doing. Now, you're going to spend a lot on those hotels. The Portales is 120, Ferriones is 110, right? So those aren't cheap. The del Rio is probably 90, 95 at least. So you're losing the money somewhere else. But all of them give you breakfast. But, you know, if I was really coming for 1 month and really living here but wanting to experience it, I would literally budget about $5,000. That's life, right? I went to Europe backpacking for 2 months in 2012, and I budgeted $35,000, right? That was a family of 4, but we budgeted $35,000, and we spent it, right? We didn't go over, like we didn't have a problem staying within $35,000, and we did a bunch of things ahead of time, bought all the train tickets and stuff. But for 2 months, staying in hotels And we often stayed in hostels, often stayed in cheaper places. We didn't splurge, but we certainly, if we saw food we wanted to eat, we ate it. We didn't want to be like, that's not within our budget. No, we were not playing that game. I was also working on Wall Street at the time. And we traveled everywhere by train. We only flew when we absolutely had to, mostly when a tunnel collapsed and the train couldn't make it through. We sometimes we hung with friends, like we did all kinds of things. But 35,000 for 2 months, that's 17,500 per month in Europe. So having a similar lifestyle in Nicaragua, 5,000. So 5,000 now would only have been 2,500 back then, right? This was a long time ago. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 4,000 back then. I think at 5,000, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm really comfortable. Could you do the whole thing for 1,000? Yeah, you could. It'll be really, really rough, as we saw with the 1 month apartment rental with Airbnb, a single non-moving month-long small room. It's tough to get much below 800 until you get into like that really tiny room for 220 or whatever. So it's just very limiting. And you can gauge from there. Well, okay, I'm not going to eat that much. I'm going to pull way back. Okay, I'm definitely not staying for $80 rooms. I'm going to look for the 20. And as someone posted after I said, good to be back with you live. Colombia's about $10 cheaper and prettier. He means the Airbnbs per night, definitely. Colombia really shines at that stuff. Niall says, the hotels are so cheap, there's no need for an Airbnb. Elvis says Colombia is cheaper, surprisingly. I don't think it's really that surprising. The size of the country really helps keep the prices down, although their minimum wage just doubled, so we're going to see how that affects some of that really cheap stuff. Elvis says almost about the same, but a little bit better quality. Airline, someone's asking, I must have skipped it. Someone said that there's a hotel that they get, I can't find it, for $25 in Managua. Oh, there it is. Niall said, we spent $25 a night for 3-star in Managua free breakfast. And then someone said, what is the name of that hotel? I'm not down to the answer yet. If you're going to Nicaragua from the USA, Nicaragua is about 1/4 cheap for every dollar you spend in the USA. You'll be spending about 25 cents on average. Hope that answers your question. Technically, if you look up the numbers, it's actually 33 cents. That it is. It's literally almost exactly 33 cents. Last time I looked, there's actually a conversion chart, but it'll feel like 25. It's 33 of your actual money. If you actually move here but keep an income from the U.S., it becomes closer to 25 because of the tax difference. If you're only visiting and don't get the tax differential, then it's 33 is just the difference that how far the money goes. 25 is based on how much your salary goes. It's slightly different. Expat says, oh yeah, I know. Elvis says, enjoy. Wow, 50 watching now. Are you serious? I haven't looked. Only 44 now, but wow, you're right. We had 50 people on. What is going on? Thanks for noticing. I didn't even realize. Does it say our max was 56? That's fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. And hey, give a thumbs up on the show while we're doing that. That's pretty crazy. Matthew Tollard says, is it still easy to find hostels for around $10 in Nicaragua? I don't know if it's easy. I know it can be done. People are still doing it, especially if it's not a single night. If you're doing like several nights, $10 is available out there. It is a thing that exists, but it's not super common. I do want to say we've had a really fantastic week on the show. I mentioned this early on that we have loads of new people. It's not our record week, but it's up there. It's one of the really, really good weeks. I'm going to keep talking while I let the dog in the door here. And we've had an incredible number of views on the channel. The amount of time... Where's this dog? Oh, she wants in the other room. I feel rejected. My dog was in the hallway, and I thought she wanted to come in to hang out with me. No, she wanted to go hang out with people across the hall. So that's where she is now. Don Timoteo says more like 15 to 20. Most of the time, that's definitely true, but you can't. If you're in like shared rooms and stuff, you can get way down there. Niall says wife is looking for the name of hotel. We'll answer soon. Thank you. Appreciate that. There definitely are deals out there, right? If you're hunting for deals and you're willing to stay in not bad, but just less luxury places, you really can get some amazing deals. And while he's looking for that one, I can tell you one, especially if you're going to stay more than a few days, that gets you some really good value, is the Cuban Dance Studio, which is a funny name. Yeah, look it up on a map so I can show you. And I never get the name quite right. I've spoken to them, I've put them on the show, and I really need to go stay there and put them on the show because it's really nice people and it's a beautiful location. If I can find them quickly on the map. How did I not zoom straight to them? I should know exactly where they are. Oh. Off just the tiniest bit. Assuming they're still there, one of the depressing things is every time you find a great anything, it's gone before you can do anything. Yeah, I think I found... This might be the property, and now it's something else, or... Did it disappear? I'm going to try looking on Instagram. What accommodations do you suggest for non-smokers? I mean, all of them? I don't know many smokers, and pretty much everything is non-smoking. There aren't that many smokers here. It's noticeable that there are smokers. Like it's definitely true that there are smokers, and it may be more smoke friendly than the U.S. currently, but it's not like there's a ton of smokers, and it's not like people smoke in hotel rooms and stuff. That's pretty abnormal. Instagram. I'm gonna try to find this place. It is very depressing, just how quickly businesses come and go. Like. I don't get like I realize that I'm very slow on getting to places. Like my life is busy, and I just can't convince the family to go do things often enough, and just don't have free time. But yeah, it looks like this place that we put on the show is already gone. That's really... It's hard to tell, right? No one has websites. This place apparently doesn't have Instagram. So I'm stuck unable to look it up in any way to know what the status is. So who knows? Might be thriving and it's doing so well they don't need to... advertise, or it's gone out of business and it is what it is. Yeah, I am not encountering it. Well, yeah, so I had a great suggestion, but I think it's gone. And now I can't find you guys. There we are. Nicaragua has tropical food that you've never eaten in the USA if you don't travel. I don't know how much I've had here that I couldn't get in the US. It's just that we commonly eat it, and in the U.S. it's like, what? Who eats that? Of course, I lived in El Salvador. I lived in a Guatemalan neighborhood, so it's a little bit different. Oh, he's saying the Hotel Mazante. All of us have stayed in the Mazante. That's really funny. That's the one that Luke had, and someone broke into his room. It's the one I was in, and someone broke into my room. We all have stories of staying at the Mazante and having issues. It's in a kind of a little rough neighborhood, but it's a nice place. Has a nice pool. My company was actually formed in the Mazante. So yeah, we've been aware of it for a long time. Yes, the Cuban Dance Garden. Is it on the map, Janet? I could not find it. Cuba Dance Garden. My gosh, why? Wait. What? Well, okay. So the place was the Cuba Dance Garden, but Google Maps has it in a completely, utterly different place. Not even remotely close to where it actually is. Those photos are from when I was there in Villa Fontana, but it's showing it in Monte Tibor, which is really far away, with a mountain range in between. And no recent pictures, probably because it's got it on the map in a wholly different place. And it shows it in the middle of the road with no building. If you do a satellite view there, there's nothing there. And I was just there, like I know, Vivero Palestina, it's like right outside the Empalme Nahapa. That's the construction zone too, by the way, right now. Anyway, Ella says, Nicaragua population is not big, a lot of green area, very nice people and very safe. You can walk drunk about 3 a.m. in San Juan del Sur and feel very safe. And San Juan del Sur is the most dangerous populace in the country. So that's the one place I would actually be a little bit, like, probably best not to be drunk at 3 a.m. I've definitely been drunk at 3 a.m. there, and it's fine. But of all places, it's also the only place where I've seen the police, like, have an entire wall of people with their hands up against the walls at 3 a.m. But if you're in any of the Nicaraguan populous zones, then you're safe for sure. It's the places with lots of lots of expats that you have to worry about things. Brent says we want to see an AI vid of you actually surfing. Okay, I'll work on that. That'll be funny. Patinka says, okay, thank you. Niall says, looks like it's $42 now. Everything's gone up a bit. It really has, especially after Luke's been promoting them because he stayed there last year. So that did a lot to put him on the map. We're up to 47 people again. I was expecting this to be a quick, short, like a few people hop on. We'll just do this quick tonight. And we have a lot of people on. I'm just, wow. I'm going to answer this one while we're here. Norm Nieves, which sounds like normal snow, but good afternoon. I've been watching your channel. You do a great job. Well, thank you, Norm. I've been living in Colombia for years, and I'm in the USA at the moment. I would like to live in a mild climate. Can you recommend a nice town? And we're going to look at our timestamp. We're at 1 hour and 2 minutes. Okay, so nice climates here in Nicaragua. So we're a very warm country, obviously, Norm. So the challenge here is always getting cooler climates. There's nothing that's going to be the year-round spring that you might find in Guatemala or in much of Colombia, Bogota or Medellin, something like that. But we do have nicer areas. So your big 3 cities for the nice weather is Esteli, Matagalpa, and Jinotega, the big 3 up in the mountains. There are, of course, lots of small cities around there. There's a couple little cities, a bunch of little towns. So depending on if you're looking for a decent-sized city or a small village or countryside, those options are there. But those are departmental capitals over a pretty large area. But beautiful areas. All are still pretty warm. You're not talking about cold, like I said, but they're going to be noticeably cooler than Managua and Masaya and Granada in that region, and that region is noticeably cooler than Leon and Chinandega. So if you're watching my videos here in Leon, we're almost as hot as Chinandega. The two of us are so hot. When we go to Managua, we notice that it's cooler, and when Managuans go to Jinotepe, they notice that it's cooler. But when you're a Jinotepean, Becca? I don't know. When they head up to the mountain towns, they notice that it's noticeably cooler. So you're definitely going to get a little bit better, right? So those areas are your place to really start looking. None of them are big. Let's be real close, real clear here. Matagalpa is your largest with a metro complete area of 500,000. But the city itself, maybe 250, right? It feels more urban than most of the other places in Nicaragua, maybe more than anywhere, even than Managua, because it's dense and it has some high rises or higher buildings, not high rises, but closer to a high rise than Managua. Managua is very, very low lying because of the 1972 earthquake and the 1939 earthquake, of course. So so Matagalpa is going to give you an urban feeling that the others will not, but it also has beautiful neighborhoods sprawling out into the mountains around it. So it's my favorite of those. Esteli might be the most popular. A lot of people really like it. The city itself is flat, but it's up in the mountains. It's smaller than Matagalpa and definitely doesn't have the big city feeling, but it is a decent sized city. And it is the wealthiest or the most expensive real estate, at least. It's the more fancy living of the three. Jinotega is close to Matagalpa, but a little bit northeast and up farther in the mountains. So it gets up into the clouds just a tiny bit. And it does have mountains above it, which you can see in the clouds most days. And it has a big lake next to it, but it's a very small city, under 100,000 people with basically nothing around it. It does have a tiny bit of suburbs going off into the north, but just the tiniest bit. For the most part, you're talking about a contained city of about 90,000 that is essentially dependent on Matagalpa, which makes Matagalpa act like a metro area with support of 2/3 once all of Jinotega and its surrounding areas are lumped in with it. And a tiny bit of the outskirts of Managua actually get up and kind of are supported by Matagalpa as well. So those are your good options, I think, and going to give you the closest thing to that mild Colombian weather options, assuming you're talking about Colombia's mountain cities, and let you have some nice options here. So Norm, thanks for the question, and hopefully you see this on the live stream. It's recorded for people who wonder, does he get to see it later? Yes, if he comes and checks it out later, he should be able to see it. I'm going to jump in with graduate gemologist 4814, who for all we know is on live because he often is. I'm just going to talk about this briefly because he's in one of the kind of towns we might be talking about this at time stamp 1 hour and what are we at? 6 minutes. So he says, I'm probably a novelty here in San Marcos in Carazo, as I have not met any other gringos here. Maybe that's the point. Hey, nothing against gringos. I am one. But it's interesting to meet real Nicaraguans and learn new things. Case in point, yesterday I bought a complete, excellent, very inexpensive meal prepared in someone's house, sold as so-called street food, to take back to the casa. And the vendors were very interested in everything about me, and it's in a good way. And it is a good way for me to learn new things, meet new people, and practice my Spanish. Oh, that's awesome. So he mentions he's in the Departamento Carazo. He's in the village of San Marcos, or they call it a city, but you'll definitely call it a village when you live there. It's one of the three cities of Carazo, Jinotepe, San Marcos, and Didiamba, which together are really close to each other. They're in a little triangle and a bunch of little towns in connecting them, and they're all on a high plateau. They're not in the mountains, but they're on a high plateau. As you come south out of Managua and you're heading towards Rivas, you go through this Departamento of Carazo, which is decently small, but actually has a pretty high population because it never stops having people. It just has villages connected to villages, connected to these little tiny cities, and it's a lot of crisscrossing traffic, and it connects to Managua on both sides because there's mountains in the middle, and it connects to Masaya, and it kind of connects to Granada. So it's like the part of the middle of Nicaragua that everyone forgets, but is right there in the middle, and it's like higher income Managua Masaya outskirts. So it's a generally, and very generally, wealthier, broad area with cooler climates, but without mountains. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I have found that gringos tend to mention San Marcos more, maybe because there's an American university there. It's the only American university in the country is located in San Marcos. Jinotepe, the southern one and the main one, the capital of the region, is a massive university center for Nicaraguan universities. Multiple major universities are located there, so it's considered Nicaragua's. There's two university towns of Nicaragua. One is Jinotepe, the other is León. The difference is Jinotepe is a tiny town that is completely universities, and Nicaragua. And León is the second biggest city in the country, but education is a major export of it. So we have the biggest unis, but as a percentage of our population, it's less, but overall, there's more university students here than there. Obviously, Managua has a ton of unis, but as a percentage, they just lost in the shuffle. So that area, and Didiamba has a new university that just opened, the old Ruben Dario University. I have no idea how long ago it closed. I've never seen it open. The old campus has just reopened as a new poly, I think. So something new going on there in Didiamba, which is exciting. Of course, always nice to see. There's a lot of campuses switching all the time because there's so many schools here. So it's nice to see some of those turning into something new, seeing new opportunity for students as well. Janet says, I messaged for a link on WhatsApp. As for the Cuba Dance Garden, surfing. Niall says, nobody broke into our room, but damn, that's wild. To be honest, would stay there again anyway, just for the breakfast. Honestly, I wouldn't avoid it either. I didn't have someone like break in, like kick in the door. I had someone come in through the window and just grab stuff. That's where my first GoPro disappeared in 2021. We believe. That is, I didn't like catch him. Luke had someone he actually caught them coming through the window, and he's like, or coming through the door. I can't remember, but he caught him coming into the room, and he's like, "Hey," and they're like, "Oh," and ran away. DS Motion. The title is catchy. We're all expecting 47th to go nuts and take over Central America. It might. I don't know. No, it's 18th, but yes, it may take over. Or unless 47th has like moved in during the time I've not been caught up on the news. Elvis says, in Nicaragua, if you're driving, most likely they will stop you on stop checks. Once they asked me if I was drunk, my answer was not now. Ask me in 2, and I would be driving to I think he means San Juan del Sur, and no problem. I meant in 2 hours from now. Most places outside of Managua are like villages. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Managua feels more like a village than Matagalpa does. Leon doesn't really feel like a village. It kind of does some days. Okay, outside of no, he's right. It pretty much all feels like villages. Basically, it all feels like villages. Managua does not feel like a city. Once you've been in like a Tegucigalpa or a Guatemala city or Panama City or Chepe town, you're like, Managua feels like oddly village life, right? It does. It's like a weird city village thing, which in some ways you're like, that's weird. We're lacking that city vibe, which is why Matagalpa is kind of cool. But on the other side, we have a really unique village city that no one else has. So for some people, that's like this amazing thing. That's exactly what they want. And it's like, I didn't want something with a big downtown. I wanted this weird sprawling thing. And for those of us from Texas, if you live in the Dallas metro, if you ignore downtown Dallas, which is really easy to do, you can easily live in Plano, in Frisco, in Carrollton, in Louisville, in it just goes on and on, Denton. And you'll be like, that's what they're like. Just people and no middle. And that's kind of how Managua is. So there's parts of the US that actually kind of match that. So it's but it's unique. It's unique, and it's really easy to fall in love with Managua once you get to know it, because it never feels like what it is. You're like, I can't be in the middle of things, and then you realize you're kind of in the middle of things, and then you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and then there's stuff, and then you're like, okay, this has got to be the middle of things, and then there's a field. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. And sometimes you'll be in like the wildest middle of nowhere, and you're like, okay, here's a big pyramid and a huge gastro park and a big party going on. And you're like, what is happening right now? Right? Like, you're just never sure what to expect. And it takes so long to learn your way around and so long to figure out where things are. And things are changing pretty quickly. So there's a lot of like, did I just take a wrong turn and now I'm in the middle of something brand new that I had no idea existed in the middle of the city? Yeah, it happens. There's some wild stuff. And then you can get into the Villa Fontana zone, the Santo Domingo, the Las Colinas, and you have like these mountains with like, you feel like you're in trees or a back road, but you're like directly connected to all kinds of restaurants and cool stuff. And if you're like me and you follow everything on Instagram, you're like, half the things I follow on Instagram are like lost in these winding streets above the city. What is going on? It takes so long to figure out this city, but that's part of the joy of Managua, is that when I'm in Buenos Aires, it's like, okay, 10 blocks this way, 2 blocks that way. Everything's just a grid. Everything's straightforward. Everything's just shops on ground level, flat. Like, I love Buenos Aires. It's a great city. But it doesn't give you this, like, what's going on vibe. But Managua is like, this is insane. What's happening in Managua? I don't know. And, like, I can spend a month in Buenos Aires and be like, yeah, I can get you around anywhere. I'll get you to any neighborhood. I'll tell you where things are. Tell me a restaurant. I'll tell you how to find it. And it's one of the biggest cities in the world. And you're like, this is so easy. And then you come to Managua and you're like, this is a tiny little city. It doesn't even feel like a city. It's just a bunch of villages. And you're like, okay, how do you find this place? And you're like, what are you talking about? Right? Managua is wild. And that's part of the fun. And my kids sometimes say they will and sometimes they won't. But I have a feeling that when my kids are older, they're going to probably move to Managua because it's got a lot of the vibe that they like. But they really like Leon. Their hope, as is mine, is that there will be a train going between the two soon. I mean, that's the plan. That we can just hop on and be like, let's spend the day in Managua and not have to drive, not have to deal with anything, just and be there. And we can do that on the bus now, but there's something different about a train. The bus it feels like more mental overhead and less comfortable. It's a surprising comfortable experience. And every time I take the Uka bus, I hate going to it. It's like, I don't want to go to the terminal. I don't want to get on the bus. I don't want to. And then I get in the seat and I put my head up against the window and I open the window and I get the breeze and we pull out of the terminal. And actually, probably before we pull out of the terminal, once the girl walks up to my window and is like, you want a Coke? You want some enchiladitas? You want some dedos de queso? And I'm like, yeah, give me something, And I get a snack and I pay practically nothing. Like, here's your 25 cents. Here's your 50 cents. I guess it's normally like 50 cents. And I get a snack and I take a bite of something delicious that I shouldn't eat because it's super unhealthy, greasy street food. And I'm sitting on the bus and I'm like, I'm just going to magically appear in Managua in 2 hours. And it's like, I love this, right? And the bus goes flying and I don't have to deal with anything. I know exactly where it's going to go. I can track my progress on my phone. And it's like, okay, is it a train? No, but it kind of acts like one at that point. Like it really is a low key experience. In the train, you can't just be like, hey, can I get off at this intersection? I'll walk from here. Oh, sure. And let's pull over. You're not going to do that on a train. So there's nice stuff about the bus. I hope we get nice big train stations with loads of cool stuff. There's just a magic to trains. Like, I can't quite put my finger on why a 2-hour journey by train and a 2-hour journey by bus, one is so much nicer than the other. But it is. I think we all know it is. There's just something about trains. And the bus stops running at 6 at night, roughly. And the train hopefully will go all night or most of the night. And when I lived in Romania, I remember I was in Timișoara, which is like the southern tip of Transylvania, and I was up in the castle for no reason, just wandering around, and I was looking out over the valley, and their trains in Romania are generally super modern, right? Everything in Romania is super modern, and you see this high speed train just silently pull into a brand new, very small because it's Timișoara, but this beautiful little pristine station in the middle of the night. It was probably 10 o'clock at night, and there was just this sense of Romania never sleeps. There is good quality rail zipping people from one part of the world to another any time of day or night. It never stops. There's always, and I love that late night train thing. Late night buses are okay, and planes are okay, but trains, because they're rooted to the ground, they're connected to things, there's some feel in a train that's just so different. And even when I'm not on the train, but just watching a train, I feel like that train physically connects me to other places. And in Europe, they really do, because those trains, because, I lived there. So we would do things like go to our local train, and probably not that local, we had to drive a ways, but we'd go to our local train and catch at like 3 a.m. an overnight sleeper. A train would pull in, we'd be super tired, but there's a local shop selling food. And we'd buy food in the middle of the night. We'd sit on a corner, walk to this train station. There's nobody there. I mean, there's one person. And there's like, you buy a ticket from this one guy who's like half asleep. And you're standing out there in the darkness. And it's Romania, right? Like, we're not in a city. Like, I lived in Transylvania. I lived in the middle of freaking Transylvania. And it's silent. It's empty. It's black. There's nothing out there. It's forest and mountains. And the twinkling lights, and you're in this tiny train station, and in the middle of the night, a train swoops in, and you get on, and it's got a restaurant that's active all night. It's got people taking care of you all night. You have a berth, and you can hop into bed and sleep in your bed, and you wake up going into a different country. You can go to Moldova, which I love Moldova. If anyone's ever looking for the Nicaragua of Eastern Europe, it's Moldova. It's fantastic. You can go to Hungary. You can go to Ukraine. You can go to Bulgaria, all places that I went pretty much by train. And it's an amazing experience. And there's just this feeling of being on the train and just being connected to the next place you're going to go to. Whereas in a bus, I feel like you're like floating disconnected in between. It's all emotional, right? Like totally a thing. Elvis says Nicaragua not beautiful in the city, but very beautiful in natural beauty. I think there's a beauty in the city. It's just a different type of beauty. I mean, I love it, right? Ed Winters here. Hola, ¿qué haces? I am recovering from being sick yesterday, and we have a phenomenal live stream going on right now. So I'm stuck doing a much longer live stream than I was expecting because this is super popular, not what I thought was going to happen tonight. And I've been working a ton today, but it's been going well. I do have to get back to that, so we can't do a long live stream. I really want to with so many people on, especially this is fantastic. Maybe we need to do Monday live streams. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe Thursday's the wrong day. Let me know in the comments. Morris says, you're right about the sprawl of the FW. I did live there. Like, I lived in Carrollton. My best friend's from Plano. She was Miss Plano, actually. And it's sprawl forever. Expozaz says, trains don't have traffic. That is very true. You just get to move. Elvis says, train versus car accident, train wins. Yeah, that's, I don't know if you saw the news, worst accident. So I used to live in Spain, and our line in Andalusia had a head-on, the northbound and the southbound going through Cordoba collided today. It's absolutely horrible train accident. It's one of the problems with high-speed trains. Ed says markets closed, so nice day off. That's right. Today's a holiday in the U.S. I forgot. So Managua is more fun than Leon. In general, it's just, it's much bigger. So if you're looking for stuff to do, Leon is good. We're the party city, but we're 300,000, and Managua's 1.4 million now. So that's 1.1 million people more than our 300,000. You notice the difference, right? Like, you do. Leon is a sleepy city in general. Most of the barrios are going to close down at night. You're going to have that one barrio bar that's staying open. We're way more lively than Granada. Right? We're way more lively than Messiah. We're way more lively than Chinandega. We're way more lively than, Rivas. We're way more lively than San Juan del Sur. But we're not Managua. We just don't have the volume for restaurants to stay open at night, for example. And so Managua's got 24-hour restaurants. We have a 24-hour pharmacy. They've got 24-hour dancing. We've got a 24-hour hospital. So we do have an AM PM in one rough part of town that stays open. Like, it's like, oh, that's it. Like the nasty AM PM. Okay. Not even the nice one, just that one. So we have some good stuff, right? For everyday life. I mean, Leon's pretty crazy. You can go out. And my wife did this the other night, right? Dancing until 5:30 in the morning. Any night of the week, but generally on the weekends. But there's clubs open all night, but just a few. It's not like you're going all over the city with lots of options, whereas Managua, you've got different club districts that will all have multiple places going really, really late at night. You've got the Reef at Central America. You've got, what's it called? The Pyramid. Oh my gosh, I was just there. Oh my gosh, it's named after the pyramid in Mexico. I can't even think of the name. Anyway, the big pyramid near the stadium, they're open all night. We've got the red light district at Los Robles is open all night. You've got Club Terraza, if you want to drop $10,000 to get in, stays open super late. You've got always something going on somewhere very, very late. It's not just that things are more likely to go super late. It's also that it's a late lifestyle. So if you're out at 10, 11 at night and you're like, let's go hit a restaurant, some are closed, but loads of them are open. And you've got like hotels with like hotel restaurant stuff going on and late night room service and stuff like that going on. And if you're in Leon, no, like by 10 o'clock, there may not be a restaurant left open in town. Right. And And so there is a difference there. That's quite dramatic. But we are a lively town. Like, we have, as a per capita basis, no one's got more live music than we do, but they're not going till 4 a.m. You know, we've got loads of people out dancing. We've got plenty to do, but very low variety. And Managua is going to give you a lot and a lot later. And those are some things I definitely miss about Managua. And one of the reasons that my kids love going to Managua, that we get up in the morning and there's so many breakfast places that we want to hit. And throughout the day, there's things to do. And at night, it's like, boy, we can go to this restaurant or that restaurant and we can do it late. We don't have to rush out. Here in Leon, it's always like, by the time we're hungry for dinner, everything is closed. And that really annoys us because we're very Italian Spanish in that way, that and Romanian, that we lived in the Mediterranean, and all of us really adapted to the super late Mediterranean lifestyle. And Marcella is here, and she's looking at some thing of tea. No sé, Dominica es de las niñas. Pregunta a las niñas porque ellas tienen té para ellas, que es regalos, pero ¿dónde fue?
En la cocina.
¿Arriba?
En el microondas.
Pienso que no. Pero arriba de el cafetería, sí, todo está disponible. Oh, it says Nicaragua is small. You can travel easily, make up your own mind. That's an advantage in Nicaragua. Everything is closed compared to big country. That's an advantage in Nicaragua. Everything is he means everything is close compared to big countries, as opposed to the disadvantage that so many things are closed early compared to big countries. Ed says, does Gecko's close? It does, but I don't know when. It stays open so late. It's the latest kitchen in town. You're right. And Gecko's still serves food at like 1 a.m. But it does it. Oh, thank you on the Spanish. Gecko's keeps the kitchen open, but I was there not that late the other night and couldn't get food, so it's definitely not as late as you'd hope. But I think you can generally drink till about 5, but they definitely have a time that they shut down. Just not a time you're actually trying to go there. Diego says, hello. It's funny. It's only when Marcella pops in, you guys, yes, close meeting distance. Yeah. You guys only hear my Spanish when Marcella pops into the room and needs something that I have to switch to Spanish. She is making tea and she's trying to figure out which tea is available, because my daughters have some tea that is their specialty that they got for Christmas, and then we keep a cupboard full of normal tea for things, and I don't know which is which, and I don't want to give away my daughter's tea. They would be very sad. They're always like, you're always giving our stuff away. It says a lot later than I can handle. That's the thing, is that even though I'm generally a pretty early person these days. Like, I like to stay home, I like to relax, and get time with the kids and stuff. But the reality is that when we go out, and we're often out until just outrageously late, because it's how things are done here. Someone says, has anyone golfed at a course in Managua or down in San Juan del Sur? I've honestly never heard of anyone golfing. All right, just checking all the messages and stuff. Oh, I've got a whining dog out there again. My gosh, always a whining dog. That is the story of my life. There are golf courses, yes. I've just never seen a golf course in person, and I've never heard of anyone playing at one. Expat says, muy bueno. Is golfing a sport? No. Yeah, one or two in Managua. There's one out east. I'm not sure where the other one might be. Let me go check on the dog. Sorry, guys. This will only be a second. Leon could use a public course? I don't think it could. I don't think you'd find anyone to play. You just whining? Why is it? My dogs are traitors. That was my old one and the baby, both whining to go be with other people, making me get up from my live stream to let them in with other people, just so my dogs can show me that I'm not the priority. You know, if you put a public course in Leon, one, I think it's too hot. No one would play. It's hot. It's way too much of the time. And two, we're dry, way drier than Managua or San Juan del Sur. So I think you'd have a really costly time maintaining the grass. So those are just very practical considerations that would be difficult. But you also have an entire population of people who have zero clue why you would play golf or would be able to afford to do it. I think you would find a very close to zero interest in Leon. And I know a lot of expats here, and I can't think of any that I could imagine, you know, if you said, hey, Scott, you want to go play a round of golf today? I'd be like, okay. Like, yeah, all right. But we'd all be like that. You know, once 3 years ago, someone asked me to play some golf, and we did. That, with the incredibly tiny number of expats here, wouldn't be enough for you to have one expat on the course per day, which would hardly pay for it. And the number of Nicaraguans that would play, I imagine, is less. Fewer, because no one has clubs, no one has ever played before, no one's going to understand why you would spend so much money to do that, and then it's just going to get more and more expensive. If we thought there was money in it, we would build one. I can't imagine that there is. Have you ever seen the SNL sketch of the Spanish overprotective mother played by Pedro Pascal? I have not. I do not see much SNL. Once in a while I see it, like on Instagram or something. I don't watch TV, so I know Pedro Pascal, obviously, and I know a number of SNL sketches, but I don't know that one, sadly. Don Timoteo says, Hacienda Iguana has a golf course, and Managua has a disc golf course. That makes more sense and is very cool. My father has put together a disc golf course before. We used to have one on the farm. There's a real nice 9-hole at Playa Colorado, beach resort north of San Juan del Sur, like $250 a round. Is that $250 or Cordoba? Because it could literally be either way here. Who knows at those places? Jan says, no, golf. Richard Johansson says, I think there's 3 golf courses in the country. I have some friends from Scotland that want to visit, and they were doing some research. Ed says, hard to AC a golf course. Richard says, I think mini golf would go over better in the country. You would think, and we talked about it heavily before we moved here. We were so convinced we were going to open a mini golf course. And you have to remember, we had lived here for a long time before we moved permanently. And yeah, $250. I would never pay $250 to play golf ever. Right? Back when I used to play, it was like, I don't know, $15 or something. And we were like, mini golf, like it's something, we know that people don't know it, but we think we can convince people of it. And I am convinced that if you put it in the right place and did enough, you could get somebody to do it. And people would be like, that was fun. Yeah, I know there's golf in Grand Pacifica. I'm sure it's just like the rest of Grand Pacifica. I bet it's pretty silly. Jan says, not all Scottish people golf. But there was mini golf here, and I know it didn't work. Now, it could be lots of reasons. Maybe it was a terrible mini golf. Maybe it was in a terrible spot. But I do know now that we've been living here that it has been attempted and failed. E.R. Werman is here. Evening, all. Hey, how's it going? We have so many people on this live stream. I'm just flabbergasted. This is crazy. So that's freaking awesome. I'm so glad everybody's here. But yeah, mini golf, there's, you know, I do still believe that if we put in enough work, we could eventually get it to be like, you know, that occasionally people would do it and some people would know about it. And if you look at Escape in Managua, where they've got laser tag and they've got bowling, it does quite well, but it's not mini golf. It doesn't require as much space. They're not the only ones in the country. They're not exactly inventing the space on their own. And they got a lot of other really good things going for it. And I think they came up with a pretty cool thing. I think with enough money now, with the way that Nicaragua is developing, if you had the right space and enough money to do it right, and that includes, and basically you would do indoor mini golf, which was within our consideration when we were first investigating it. We were considering doing indoor mini golf. If you did indoor with amazing stuff and air conditioned it and everything in Managua, I think you could make it work. But what we always envisioned was doing it out near the beach and having it be part of a thing where people are coming to or from the beach. It gives them a spot to stop. Like, I still think you could make it kind of work, and I've seen places that do something kind of similar. And if you connected it with the right other activities, yes, that might work. But it's not going to be a moneymaker, not really. You'd be doing a lot of work to try to just keep it going. If you're really passionate about mini golf, I think you could make it a decent hobby business. Like if you want to design and run a mini golf course, you think that's the hobby you've always wanted, hey, more power to you. It's not going to hurt anybody. Go for it, right? But I would say be really, really prepared for that to be an incredibly less popular thing than you're imagining, even though it's a wonderful sport and I wish more people did it. Like mini golf is fun. What a great date activity, right? It's fantastic. But Nicaraguans don't tend to do that kind of date activity, right? So that's, maybe you could develop it. And just like drive-in theaters, right? The weather's always good here. Well, at least half the year, doing a drive-in theater might be a lot of fun, right? I grew up in an area that had one of the best we were ranked top 5 drive-ins in the United States, and it was freaking fantastic, right? We loved it. It was a great place to go on a date. It was a great place to take kids. It was a great place you could go to the movies with your dog. It was, and they did everything right. You know, you could buy beer there. You could get pizza. You could get ice cream. You could get hamburgers. They would deliver to your car. They had multiple screens. So many movies. They kept the price down and all kinds of things. It was amazing. But do I think that thing that was the thing where I grew up, could I recreate that here in Nicaragua? I could physically recreate it here. Would it be popular? I don't think so. I think some people would be like, what a cool thing. And then they would not go again. And no one else would go and it would fail. So it's really hard to say. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could totally make it a huge thing and everyone would go and they'd be like, this is the thing. But I just don't see it happening. Diego says, I wouldn't say that. AC really not needed most place. Climate is fine. Diego, you're not spending enough time outside golfing in Leon. That will change your mind on a lot of things. Little dog. Oh, you want to come in? You wanted to show that you weren't abandoning me. Aw, do you want to be on the show? Oh, that was your head. You're such an idiot. Okay, here he is. Here's Ramen. Or whatever his name is going to be. He is so much bigger. Every time we do a live stream, he's so much bigger. This is the one that was a runt that fit just in the palm of my hand when we saved him because he was starving to death. And now he's huge, and he's still just a little puppy. Just a little puppy. Hi. Yeah, I know. Yes, I love you too. I love you too, sweetie. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Okay, you're done. Okay, there you go. Yeah. You gonna go lay down or something? He's such a cutie. He's part whippet. Well, if you like to sweat, it's okay. I'm used to it, to be honest. A lot of out here in Leon, all the locals are like, no, it's too hot. We can't. Here, Worman says, I don't know, evenings are borderline coldish. Where are you? Chris says there's a mini golf in Catarina. That's funny. I've never seen it. Where in Catarina is it? Now the dog wants to leave. Oh, that you just had to be on the show. You're like, I'm so handsome. They have to see me. That was your thing? Okay. Goofy dog. Where is there mini golf in Catarina? I will totally go do that. That's something we need to film. That would be fun. I have a message I have to check. I don't know where it is. There it is. Is there any bowling alleys in the country? That's one thing I thought would maybe be okay. So that's what I had mentioned. Escape has an amazing one, and La Terraza has an amazing one. I've been to both of those. They're both in Managua. Yeah, so Escape and Terraza, the only two I know of. Terraza, I don't think stays that busy. Escape is pretty busy, but I don't know that there's any market for any more. Because they're not packed and they're central. So like, Elle says, cool, I learned something new today. A lot of businesses here in Ometepe do open air cinema evenings. That's a little bit different. It's cool and that's good. And that's what I think makes sense. They're doing what makes sense. Doing a drive-in where you have the cars and the giant thing and like restaurants and stuff, like that's big. And that's part of the fun of it is that it's big. And part of the fun is that you've got the car. But where I'm from in New York, even in summer, you don't need to air condition the car during a movie. Either you roll down the windows and you're not worried about mosquitoes. There's a lot of them. They don't carry anything. There's no diseases. Or you run air conditioning before the movie and then you shut it off when the movie starts. Because if you're running when the movie, like that's terrible. Almost always it's cool enough. Now, summers in New York are hot, hotter than summers here in many cases, but they have cooler evenings. So sometimes it is a problem and you just have to have the windows down and you're sweating and that's no fun. These days you got battery powered fans that can make that way better. But here it holds onto the heat at night. So it'd be really tough sitting in cars, having to have the windows down, dealing with mosquitoes. There's just a lot that makes it not the experience you'd want. And not as many people have cars and people try to pack way more people into them, but people also have fewer places, to disappear to, so having the ability to have a private little car space for a date or something is a really nice thing that is often lacking here. So I could see where, okay, maybe, and like if you did it in like Esteli, I could be like, okay, in Esteli it's cool enough that maybe it makes sense, but then you don't have the population to do it. So maybe in Carazo and people who drive in from Managua, I don't know. 5-pin bowling would be fun, but I've only ever seen that in Canada. I've never even heard of that. I think a mini golf could work in a ton of TikTok campaigns, but the culture is so much different that after everyone tries, no one will go again. Yes, that's part of the thing. It's like everybody will do it, but it won't become. I think Diego agrees. It won't become a habit. Just like laser tag and bowling alleys. Those aren't things that become a lifestyle. It's just, I did that once or twice. It was fun, but like, you don't see bowling leagues or anything like that popping up. In the United States, bowling is a cheap activity. I'm at my local, I grew up around Geneseo, New York. We had a bowling alley in Geneseo. I went to it plenty as a kid to the point where it ripped my wrist apart and I can't hold a bowling ball anymore. And we would go bowling, and you get chicken wings and French fries and a beer. Not when I was a kid, but you know what I mean. And that was the thing. It's like, you do evening leagues. It was a chance for the guys to go out. And you're getting beers together, and you're not getting in trouble because you're bowling. And it was, it's a fun local activity. It's like a pool hall, but if you're not into pool, you got bowling. Often there you got both. Sometimes you had darts there too. It's that vibe. It's a local beer vibe, and that doesn't work here. Because bowling is expensive, because you have to import everything, and it's not done on a large scale, and so it's a luxury activity rather than a cheap activity, and because of that, it's like it's nice. You go to Escape. I've never been to a bowling alley so nice in the United States. Never. It's phenomenal. You get really good food and a really nice bar and a beautiful air-conditioned space, and everything's pristine, but there aren't that many lanes and there aren't that many people bowling, and it's definitely not leagues or anything. Everyone's just coming for that one birthday party or it's a very special thing. Mini golf would be the same. Everyone would go once, be like, I see what the Americans are talking about. But they don't want to do that. Guatemala definitely could see it. Golf in Leon would only work at night, but why? But why would you bother? Exactly. And I've been golfing since I was 7. right? Like, I liked golf. I started off playing golf. I've been members of country clubs, but I can't imagine. Ed says maybe big baseball or soccer matches, but movies. A lot of people do like movies here, but not as much as you might think. It's true. Movie theaters do okay here. Darren says beautiful colors. I'm not sure if that was a reference to, but hey, Darren, how's it going? Chris says it's called El Clubhouse. I'll have to look that up. E.R. Werman says, oh, and there's this game called bocce, something between bowling and curling, easy to set up, and you don't need an alley. Bocce balls, pretty well known. Yep. That's kind of a British thing. Driving range with explosive golf balls to Chang. Big screen at the stadium. That's true. You could do it there. Here, bowling is an upper middle class thing. Oh, for sure. Whereas for us, it's a lower class and entry middle class thing. Once you're in upper middle class, like everyone does it, but it's all, everyone does it once or twice, but to like have it be a thing, it's generally associated with like factory workers. And I mean, everybody does it, right? I've taken my kids to go bowling in the States. I've taken my kids to go bowling here. But it is anything but an upper middle class activity. It's the me and the guys from the factory are going out and getting some beers, eating some wings, talking crap, and we have an excuse to get away from the wives for the evening, right? It's like that's the kind of thing. And if you watch American sitcoms, they really drive that home. It's like the family on Roseanne, right? He's a drywaller. And they live in Illinois, I think, right? It's a very Midwest thing. Like even the Northeast, it's kind of like, the North, we don't bowl. That's a Midwest thing, right? Everyone bowls in America, but it's got a lot of stigma with it. As like it's okay for everyone to do, but it's only okay for some people to do all the time. Yeah, here baseball and soccer are kings. People watch it, people play it. Not even basketball is that big, so yeah, I doubt golf would fare well. Yeah, introducing new things generally doesn't work great. People are not conditioned, and it's like food, right? Nicaraguans aren't conditioned to see more variety as some big benefit. It's not like, ooh, new variety, I have to check that, right? Americans are like, variety is the thing we seek. So you offer variety, and we go, I have to try that. Nicaraguans with food, no. You say, here's better quality of the same thing, or here's the same thing cheaper. And they go, yeah, that sounds fantastic. I like the thing I've had. That's why I have it. Now I can pay less or get it better. Nice. Or get it delivered, make it faster. But then the same thing happens with things. You can introduce golf, mini golf, bowling, or whatever, darts, and they go, variety. Why? And if you convince them to do it, they're like, okay, I tried that, just like I tried, some American food. And they go, that was okay, but it was just okay. Like I'm not looking to do it again. And that tends to be how it is. There's just no reason for people to want to do that stuff. Diego says, I like bowling, but I always fail to convince my friends to go with me, so I've only gone 2 times. Yeah, not that exciting. Golf and bowling, not so popular. Elvis says, I never made a habit of bowling because I'm terrible at it. Well, that's DBI Pro. Hi, hey DBI, how's it going? Richard says, motocross seems to be becoming a bigger and bigger thing. I've seen a bit of that here, yeah. I went to a few races in Granada. Last one was actually quite big. I would say a few hundred people show up. I went to one in Jinotega a couple of years ago on my Laguna de Apoyo video, and I would say a few thousand showed up. That was pretty wild. Darren says beautiful colors was in reference to my doggo. Oh, he is the most beautiful. He's got this gorgeous brindle. He looks like a Gibson guitar. He's crazy. Yes, thank you. He's a rescue whippet. It's my bodyguard's dog had puppies, and this one was the runt, and the others were killing it, and they couldn't protect it. And so Teamea, Jillian's rescue out on the beach, took him and nursed him until he was going to survive, because he was hours from death. And they got him to the point where he would live, and then we brought him here, and he was so tiny. By the time we got him, he was still just this little tiny thing, so small. And now he's huge and getting bigger fast. He's got so much extra skin, he's still just filling out. He's going to be a big dog. And I've seen like his uncle. Like his uncle's not that big, but he's not a small dog. Elvis says golf for rich, bowling for poor, baseball and soccer for most people. Except here, bowling is for rich too, right? Golf is for super rich, bowling is for sort of rich, and baseball and soccer are for everybody. Diego says here most people just go and play soccer or go to the bar. And part of it is that for Americans, all that variety, we don't think about the fact that it costs stuff, right? You want to play basketball, you're going to pay for a ball to try it. Partially because in the US, everybody has access to stuff to try things in more places for free. But here, so many things would be like, I have to go buy that, or someone's got to go buy that. And who's going to spend money to try something out? And where are you going to play it? Right? Basketball, obviously, you can do. Right? There are basketball courts all over, and all you need is one ball, and everybody can play. So it's not terrible, but bowling or golf require massive investments to even try it. Jan says, you made me remember the time my dad bowled. It was for the factory where they made dialysis machines. They told me he always got a strike because he slammed the ball down. They're so hard. Diego says, I wouldn't take a girl on a mini golf date. See, that's what they're for. Is in America, that is like quintessential typical date. Like you meet a girl and you're like, hey, you want to play mini golf and get milkshakes? Like that's what you do. A bowling date, that's okay. I could teach her. Well, same with mini golf. Well, those of us who know how to play. E.R. Werman says, or more so, people just go out to drink and dance here in the evenings. And that's partially it's because Americans don't do that. We do all these alternative things. Diego says, motocross is definitely becoming big. It has always been kind of big, to be honest. Motocross athletes are pretty well known. Darren says, not sure if you remember from my comment a few weeks back, but I'm the guy from Carrollton. Oh, yes, that's right. It's hard to keep track of everyone. There's so many people on. How many people do we have on right at the moment, by the way? Marcella's wondering because I have to drive her family home. They're hanging out here watching things. And, oh my gosh, we still have 43 people on. We have so many people on. This is nuts. Hey, Luke. We're here with a shocking number of people for this evening. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about things that might work here or might not. Now I don't remember. Oh, yes. I was going to say, one of the things that for me, so my kids really want to do this, and I think you guys know, like my kids really want to play Dungeons and Dragons, and they have, right? They've played Dungeons and Dragons multiple times, but they're really looking forward to getting a group going here. We were trying to start last night, actually, and then I was like crazy sick. But I'm thinking about, I'm trying to, like Marcella's kids are bored sometimes. Everyone's bored sometimes, right? And so I was like, you should try something like this. But trying to find resources for that in Spanish, like the Spanish world is huge, and this is an entire thing that is really big in English, and it kind of doesn't exist in other languages. If Diego, especially, if you have any resources or know how to get like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder in Spanish, I would really love to know, because I think her kids would really like it, but I'm not sure. And it's so not Nicaraguan. This whole and Diego's gonna be like, that's totally Nicaraguan. I don't think it is. My impression is that, oh, there's my dad. My mother's and his first date was mini golf in 1961. Is that right? Yeah, mini golf is like, maybe that's why I think of it as the iconic first date, because it was my parents' first date. But pretty much any girl I ever dated, before I met my wife, but including my wife, right? Always, mini golf was like a thing you do. That's, if it's not your first date, it's one of your first few dates. It's when you're like, you want that safe, easy, comfortable, fun activity where it's easy to talk, it's not loud, right? But Nicaraguans don't want that. They always want loud. They don't ever want it to be quiet. You don't ever want it to be where you're not struggling to communicate, right? For whatever reason, they want that just volume all the time, and North Americans don't. And that's one of the reasons why golf and bowling and mini golf and those activities are so popular, because they're quiet. There's just slight background sound of animals or music in the distance, and you're easily able to talk at a quiet volume, and that's how we live. And Nicaraguans would be like, this is hell, right? Like, so It's all those things that just land so perfectly for us. Like, oh, that's what you would do. When you bring it here, everyone's like, no. And that's one of the things, like Dungeons and Dragons for us is such a big thing. What do you do? Well, we go down to the basement, we get sodas, or as an adult, beers, right? Loads of chips, dips that Nicaraguans can't get. I don't even know how any home. This is why Nicaraguans don't spend time at home the way Americans do, because they can't get hell of a French onion dip. That's why. If they had hell of a French onion dip, everything would change in Nicaragua, and you would find all these kids staying home and like reading, because they'd be like, oh, I'm playing Age of Empires and eating these chips, right? But they don't have them, so they're stuck going out and partying all the time. But like those things, like that, like we're gonna sit around a table and in quiet, we're gonna listen to each other and tell a story. It's so not the thing to be able to hear each other, to be able to have intonations, to be able to tell stories, to have like that whole vibe is so not the Nicaraguan experience. It's like, even though things like Dungeons and Dragons feel like it would be really perfect for so many Nicaraguans, it's like, wow, an essentially free activity that can use up an unlimited amount of time and is really entertaining. Like, that isn't just the same thing as everything else. Again, not looking for variety is part of the problem. But like, this is a huge thing that works for Americans. It's so hard to figure out. I've never had a Nicaraguan kid be like, hey, I'd like to try that. Ever. Yeah, Diego says, we don't really have a playing table games culture. I have friends who speak, like Nicaraguan friends, beyond Diego, who speak English, and we'll be like, oh, we have a board game. And they're like, yeah, we don't really understand, like, the point. And it's like, wow. And it's actually weird that video games became a big thing here, and maybe they're not that big, but they seem really big, when the thing that led up to them isn't. But for Americans, like all that stuff, like, oh, we're going to sit around at night, we're going to play Monopoly. That's a terrible one. But we're going to play Clue. We're going to play Aggravation. We're going to play now murder mystery box sets and solve a mystery. Or we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons and like just delve into stories and strategy and all this stuff. And like, that's so quintessential what you do is family time. And it's like Nicaraguans are like, nope, I just want to sit on the street and drink a beer. And Americans are like, no, that's loud and you know, no interactivity. And it's hard that gap is there, because it's our lifestyles cross over so little. Trying to catch up. CH Dice says, I don't know if you've talked about the Nicaragua car insurance topic before. There's a young YouTuber called Nika Vlog whose car was in Iraq. He's supposed to have full coverage, isn't working. I mean, I've got coverage and I've never had a problem. I've had a lot of accidents. Did he get the government insurance or some random third party? And is the third party actually here in the country and accountable? I mean, that's how it is in the U.S., right? The insurance company's going to pay what they feel like paying, so you never know. Everyone always feels like insurance isn't what it's supposed to be, right? Because we imagine we pay something and then they cover everything, but they don't really, typically. But you'd have to look into, you know, what full coverage did he really have, and with whom. I use Inisur, and we've never had a problem. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out what's going on. Sometimes you have to know what you're doing. But Diego says full coverage. It really isn't full coverage. Our experience is it has been. E.R. Werman says, I do wonder if there are any boxing matches competition going. Are you seriously? That's our number 2 sport. There is so much boxing. Luke says, I'm waiting for EFT to send invoices and deliveries. Diego says, it only gives you around 10,000 at most. Oh. The insurance. Diego says, insurance sucks here. You really can't insure anything. That is definitely not our experience. We've had no problems with insurance here and constantly making claims. I've never had to deal with insurance so often. My dad says 1963. I was off just a little bit. My mom was 15. That makes sense. Exposaz says, yay, Mr. Miller. Elvis says, baseball. Oh, I scrolled a lot. Baseball in Nicaragua is good quality. Soccer, watch out. Rest of Central America, Nicaragua is improving. Get there someday. Bob says, is this live? This is definitely live, Bob. E.R. Werman says, yeah, Scott, and quiet is not something Nicaraguans do well. It is not, right? All that stuff that we yearn for, just that quiet conversation, yeah, not a thing. I don't know how you do that. Ed says, amusement park. There was one here. It failed. I don't know if it was any good. That could be why it failed, but there's the Fun City is in Managua right now. Diego, maybe he knows how well it's doing, but it's Costa Rican. Expozaz says, did you watch Star Trek, the original series back in the 60s? My dad definitely did. We watched it in reruns together in the 70s. Elvis says, Star Trek Next Generation is the best. Obviously, it's the best. TNG is the way to go. Diego says, we don't really have a playing table games culture. E.R. Werman says, and when on the topic of dips, I don't know if it's just me, but every brand of mayo I ever tried here tastes off like rancid. Haven't found a good mayo since I got here, and it's been almost 2 years. Are you getting so there's one mayo to buy, and that's the one from PriceSmart. Like PriceSmart's own brand is that's the mayo. We do make our own mayo at home, but we buy the PriceSmart one, and it's very good. Nothing else will be good because Nicaraguans don't like the same mayo that North Americans like. And I can tell you, whatever it is, to me it's awful. But if you go to PriceSmart, you're getting real American quality mayo that would impress you in the U.S. Everything else, including Hellmann's and everything, is modified for the Nicaraguan market. I don't know there's some different mix that they use. It's not that it's gone bad, it's that they like it different. But go to PriceSmart and you're all set. And let me tell you, no one eats as much mayo as I do, except the Spanish. TNG made the most money out of all Star Treks. Cool. Diego says, well, I was that Nicaraguan kid and did want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Well, Diego, let's get a group together. Let's do this. Richard says, most Nicaraguans love loud noises. The only exception seems to be the people from Huigalpa. My wife's family is from there, and the town can be strangely quiet at times, and she almost loves silence. Oh, you might need to move. All of us struggle with the noise. That is one thing. It just never ends. Senseless noise everywhere. Every moment of every day, the noise has to fill the space. And it's coming from a culture where we're used to everything has to remove noise, right? Oh, do you hear that? We have to make that stop. And here it's like, do you hear nothing? We must fill it. And that's so hard to get over, especially as someone who's autistic and all those noises trigger things. Don Timoteo says, I play Monopoly, Uno, Jenga, and Dominoes with Nika kids. All things that are just, I can't. Jenga a little bit. Luke says, Nika version of D&D, Leyendas y Cervezas, a porch top game. That's funny. Diego says, card games are popular, though, but what kind? Roger says, good night. Have to get up early for the contractor. Oh, gosh. Yes, Roger. How's that going? Have a good night. Richard says, if you're coming from the USA or Canada, the rest of the world doesn't fill their mayonnaise with sugar, so it will taste different. That's true, but like when I lived in Europe, their mayonnaise was fantastic. And not as sweet, but it still tastes fantastic. Here, oh shoot, who said it? Sorry, whoever said it. It is rough. If you're getting a lot of the standard mayo, it is I wouldn't even call it mayo. Like the flavor is so different. For a while I was getting like the olive oil stuff, and that helped a lot. But once we found we're like, why are some restaurants okay? And it's because PriceSmart has reasonably priced American style mayo that we don't have to make at home. But when we make it home, we don't add any sugar either, and ours is good. So it's not the sugar, but sugar maybe making every random American mayo taste okay when it's not that high quality. Elvis says, chicha from La Colonia is made with lots of ice, is so refreshing. I have never seen chicha in La Colonia. Is it in the fridge? Janet says, I watched the original Star Trek when it was new, and I told my parents I wanted to go to Starfleet Academy, and they told me I could. And they just said, yeah, you can do that. Right after you graduate from Hogwarts, you have to get through high school first. Diego says, when I first moved to Doral, I almost got depressed by the silence. Now I can't live any other way. Oh, Doral would be nice. Yeah, Doral seems a lot more quiet than a lot of places. Anybody see Dungeons & Dragons movie? I have it, but I haven't watched it yet. Same guys are making the next new Star Trek movie. Oh, cool. I'm hoping the next Star Trek movie is good because the last one, whatever it is, Section 53, was unwatchable. It was so bad, I can't even. Diego said, oh, and the new series, has anybody seen Starfleet? I started watching Starfleet. It's watchable, but it's sad. The writing is terrible. The acting is terrible. It feels like a cartoon that at the last minute they said, you know what? We've got so much AI, we could just do this with people. And like, okay, Holly Hunter's okay. The kid that they got playing it, he's doing a good job. I like him. Even like the old admiral that I liked in, The Mummy, he's just phoning it in. He's just standing there reading some lines. He doesn't care. I feel like everybody, like they're doing, it looks like they're just green screening it. They say they're ARing it now. They're like, we can do all this stuff. So the camera movement is just painful and the acting is just stiff. And you can tell it's too much and the actors are just like, I've given up. And the script is horrible, so you can tell that they're like, who cares? Like, no one's watching this for quality anymore anyway. Like, there's been recently some really good Star Trek, like Star Trek Strange New Worlds seems really good, and Star Trek Discovery was fantastic. There's a bunch of stuff that I like going on in the Star Trek universe. I'm not down on Star Trek. I was really hoping that Starfleet was going to be like this, another really solid one, but it looks like it's another Picard. So, sadly, there we are. Diego says Uno is pretty popular. Yeah, I know Uno is. My gosh, I always bring an Uno to parties and take it out when it gets boring. Or Desmoche? I don't know that. Don Timoteo says, yeah, I ordered a sandwich at Subway at the airport and it had terrible mayo on it. All the Subway here is really weak. Like it is not Subway. That is one restaurant that did not bother to try to recreate anything. Elvis says, Star Trek, the motion that you could travel and find different culture and accepted was very appealing to me. I love in Star Trek the fact that you can live on a cool flying city so that you have I always get to stay home combined with I always get to adventure. That's my dream, right? That's the thing. I want a ship like that where you go from place to place and your home goes with you. And your home is this beautiful, modern, like, I love the styling, the decor. We talked about this earlier. Like, I like real estate and all that stuff. Star Trek encouraged me because it made the idea of, like, this hotel room that was your room that traveled with you places was, like, the most amazing thing. And the way that this plays out in my older life is that my company has, for 10 years, been talking about the possibility of buying a large plot of land, obviously here in Nicaragua, and building homes for our employees and having our own village, obviously, where we don't travel like a spaceship because you can't do that. But we would have amazing internet and you'd be in this incredibly safe, essentially enclosed community where because on the spaceship, on the Enterprise, everyone works for the same company, in that case, the military, but you get the point. They're protected. They're inside the walls. So their hallway outside their home is completely safe, except for when aliens invade and stuff, obviously. But, but you're floating in a sea of nothing with, so it's 99.99999% of the time completely isolated. And you have everything you need in that little community. You have the restaurants, you have a bar, you have entertainment, you have your friends, you have the, computers in every room that are all connected to each other. Everyone's connected, right? Now, I understand in real life, kind of WhatsApp and stuff kind of gives us that anyway. And I've lived in different places where I've had bits of this feeling that I'm in an isolated bubble, but I feel connected to people. And it's neat. But having a community where everybody works for the same company, and it's a company that cares about its employees, and we have amazing food, and we have amazing internet, and everyone has connections to each other, right? And you can make it like Star Trek. You go inside the homes and you just talk to the house. And you're like, I need to talk to the person who's across the way, right? And it'll just intercom to them and do, like, those are things that are really easy to do and can be done. And so many of our employees do have this, like, I would like a place to live. That does, like, I have a number of employees who are like, that does sound fantastic. Right. And like, I would, this is what I would have wanted when I was early on in my career. That's exactly what I would want. Right. Like, I started a job here and now I get to live in some really freaking amazing place and not have to worry about a bunch of things. Right? Food is included, house is included, internet is included, air conditioning is included. I can work from home because I'm on campus at all times. There's no reason to go anywhere, but I can go to meeting rooms, I can go to public spaces, I can go to all these things. And these things are not out of reach for the company. So it's a thing that we're like, when should we maybe possibly do this and where? And we're just waiting kind of for like the right opportunity to come up. But and because we're a company that generally hires for life, it's a completely different. Like, we don't hire people and like, okay, we don't need you anymore, right? We've like never had to do that and hope not to, right? So because we're that kind of company and we try to hire, and because we, I talked to my development manager and he's like, man, I wish you'd get a copy of Age of Empires 3 because the whole team's got it and we're on Thursday nights, we're going to play and we, and like people game together. And we've been doing this since the 90s. We've always had video game groups that play together. Like, we have LAN parties and D&D parties and Jackbox get-togethers during COVID was a big thing. Everybody would call in and be on FaceTime kind of thing and do that stuff together. And we have corporate communication structures, and we're a 24/7 company. So like, I've got staff that's on right now. You can always talk to them. There's always somebody, like, there's just stuff always going on. It's like this real living entity because we're like 100 people. Like, having a community where like that's a hub, and like you go out at night and you're like, hey, yeah, sure, sometimes you go other places, but when you're in your community, it's like everybody and you feel incredibly safe, and it's just a completely different experience. And Star Trek is where I think I got that from, right? Like, how do you recreate what they had on the Enterprise? Because those people, they're actors, and in real life this would be hard to find, but the people would be like, I love running a starship, and someone else would be like, I love doing maintenance on a starship, and someone else would be like, I love doing product development on a starship, and someone else is like, I love running the health center on the starship. And there's all these people who are passionate about their jobs and working together, and they all went to work with like, I'm doing research and I'm building cool things and I'm making the world a better place and I'm discovering new stuff. And that's the kind of company we are. We build products and we help other companies build products and stuff like that. And so we're so well fit for being like that it's like, maybe we should do that. Richard says, I miss the Russian mayo I used to get when I worked there. It had lots of horseradish in it. We got lots of that in New York. We just didn't call it mayo. We just called it horseradish sauce. But yeah, that's really good. I'm from Buffalo, so that was a really common thing. Expat says, I'm going to watch Star Trek Starfleet Academy again before episode 3 drops on Thursday. You're going to watch it again before 3? Ed says, I saw a Twisters game downtown, maybe good for pool parties. Richard says, or maybe it was more comparable to a mustard. Diego says, Jenga, pretty popular as well. Played it a couple of times. Basically, the games here are games that require no rule. Like, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to learn anything. And in the States, games tend to be popular when they take a lot to learn. They want it to be something you really get into, is a big difference. Luke says, 3 weeks out from a return to Florida for a few weeks, checking the airline's website daily to ensure they aren't canceling due to FAA alert. Yeah, that sucks. Elvis says, very inspiring. Thank you. Hopefully we can make it happen. I'm very excited about the idea. We've been kicking it around for a long time. Richard says, yes, Star Trek like to go around exploring other cultures while carrying a gun on their hip. Seem kind of hypocritical. Oh gosh, I use the Prime Directive as my example of just colonialism, right? Using military forces to forcibly keep less developed cultures from interacting with other cultures to force them to stay in basically a zoo exhibit. Oh, I'm big on the people in Star Trek were actually evil people. But I really like in later Star Treks, they start to look back on it historically and say, that was terrible. And they kind of had to, because the Orville did that, and the Orville called out Star Trek all over the place. If you like Star Trek, The Orville is like Star Trek for adults that actually tackles difficult things, and instead of taking a little bit of a fascist role the way that Star Trek did with this like we're colonial imperial powers and what we say is best, it very much reflected America in the 1960s, right? Oh, exploring other cultures, good. Thinking of them as equals, bad, right? Whereas the Orville is like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Like, this was terrible. And they address it in much better ways. And you're like, oh no, they're going to do the same thing as Star Trek. And then suddenly they call them out and they go out after it. And you're like, wow, I love the Orville. But new Star Trek is tackling a lot of that too. So I'm glad that they're keeping up with the times to some degree. And Star Trek always tackled some difficult things. So I don't want to bash them because it was the 1960s. And to some degree, they did what they could, right? They did break down some barriers. They did do some firsts. So you know, you sometimes especially in Hollywood, you got to walk before you can run. Go too far and you end up on McCarthy's list. Utopia until there's a mutiny. Love John Lennon. Imagine. Yara Werman says, there we go. Power went out again. Every single day, something going on with electricity on the island. Yeah. Do you like Chris Pine playing Captain Kirk? I think he's starting to look like his father, Robert Pine, from the old TV show Chips. He is starting to look that way. Actually, I really like Chris Pine playing Kirk. I would argue, I think Chris Pine is the Kirk. You know, obviously, the original Captain Kirk is what created the show, and he did a good job. But I feel that the original character was so ridiculously over the top. I think if you look at it like if you try to take the nostalgia out of it, honestly, Chris Pine is so good as Captain Kirk. Like, he's excellent. He nails who I think the character was supposed to be, and I think he plays into the universe better without being this like caricature going on, which is the problem from the early shows. Not always. Some of the early ones were quite good. But it became more and more caricature over time, and Chris Pine, I think, nails it as like a real person that you really like. As like he's complicated and real, and he makes more sense as that character. Ed says, "Scotty, beat me up." E.R. Werman says, "I think they actually did quite a nice job with Strange New Worlds. I've not seen all of it, but everything I've seen, I like a lot. Really good cast. I'm very happy with that one for sure." E.R. Werman says, "After a long time, they kind of got close to the original Star Trek vibe in the old days." I agree. They managed to make something that felt nostalgic while being really modern. Like, it's a great combo. Mind you, nothing beats Deep Space Nine and TNG. And Voyager. I really liked Voyager. It took me a long time. Deep Space Nine is way better than people give it credit for. Someone was like, no, Deep Space Nine is actually the bomb. And I was like, really? And they're like, you have to get past like the first season, and then suddenly it's really good. And I'm like, but then I pushed through it because I didn't watch it that much when it was new. And I gave up because I didn't like it. The Ferengi were just so over the top, I couldn't take it. And then when I went back older and watched it all, I was like, oh no, it is really good. Yeah, it actually really gives TNG a run for its money. And Voyager is excellent as well. Diego says, I understand nothing about Star Trek. I've never seen it. Oh, Diego, you really should. You really should dig into it, but you have to start with the original in the 1960s, and it's a lot to get through because for you it won't be nostalgic. It's just weird. But you have to, it's historical. You watch it and you go, this was what made sci-fi TV acceptable. Before that, it was all like bizarre, right? And Star Trek was still bizarre. It was still like Doctor Who and Lost in Space. Like the sci-fi genre was clueless up until that point. And Star Trek took a very rough genre and gave it something. It was still really rough. It's still the acid trippy 1960s. But you have to watch it in like this just laugh. It's a comedy. And it's goofy. Like, you just got to, right? Then get past that. Watch them transition to the movies and start to take it seriously. And then in the 1980s, and you have to really step back and say, okay, the people who are now watching this have been waiting 20 years for this. So people like me grew up with the original in reruns, and we loved it. And every so often we would get a little taste of more Star Trek. And then one day they announced that they were making a new Star Trek series, and we're all like, and then it wasn't just another Star Trek series. It was the most amazing cast doing the most amazing job of taking Star Trek, this goofy 1960s weirdness, and making a really serious, redefining show in the late 80s based on the Star Trek universe. And it was amazing because there had been a lot of sci-fi in between that had developed the genre. There was Battlestar Galactica, there was Star Wars, there was the Star Trek movies, there was Alien. So sci-fi had really advanced as a film media during that interim. But Star Trek in the 1960s was one of the defining shows. And then Star Trek in the 1980s, Star Trek The Next Generation, took that legacy and did it again. And it gave us modern sci-fi TV, modern episodic sci-fi TV. And it was fantastic. And unlike the original Star Trek, which was goofy and over the top in caricatures, it was serious actors doing serious work and really approaching this as something that mattered, even though they thought it was going to fail. And then it turned into the biggest thing ever. And it completely exploded and created this media empire that's now been going on with series after series after series. But it's so popular in English and so important. It's amazing. And it tells difficult stories and does a lot of neat stuff. Never seen Star Wars is pretty something. Expat says the Orville was never officially canceled. They're actually supposed to be doing another series. Like, they keep talking about it. Pine was in Dungeons and Dragons movie. That's one of the reasons I really want to see it. Diego says, I'm not into movies and TV shows overall. Never got into it. He doesn't drink either. Diego's a tough nut to crack. Luke says, Space 1999, belt-worn remote control to open and close doors. Maddening to watch today. Elva says, Star Trek was like the UN. Captain Janeway has those POTUS vibes, that's for sure. She also, the actress, went on to voice the Witch of the Wilds in Dragon Age, one of the greatest fantasy stories ever. Let me tell you, if you're looking to see her beat her performance as the captain of the Enterprise, watch her as the Witch of the Wilds in Dragon Age. My gosh, she's good. We were playing Dragon Age is my wife's all-time favorite game, and it's in my top 5. And you're playing it, and you hear her voice, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!" And she's such an important character. I love her arcs; like, she's fantastic. Expat says makers of Dungeons and Dragons movie are not making the new Star Trek movie. Also, Diego, this next new Star Trek movie is not in any way attached to previous Star Trek. Good place to start. Wait, there's another reboot coming? Is that what's happening? Are now making the new Star Trek. That makes more sense. CH Dice says, I still get laughed on the 1960s old shows. One episode, Captain Kirk physically fights something that looks like Lizard Man slow-mo fight. Oh, yeah. There's some goofy stuff. And if you're into that stuff, old Doctor Who is even wackier. I grew up on that and I was watching Doctor Who in 1980, and Tom Baker era was my vibe. Loved it, but holy cow. You go back and watch. I watch it with my kids sometimes, and they're just like, what the F is this? E.R. Warman says, I like how they kind of silently push Star Trek Discovery into irrelevance lore-wise with the whole this never happened because it was so top secret, and then they push the later seasons into the future. They did kind of move. They're like, okay, no. They even figured out how in the end, how terrible it was, I guess. I do hate when they do like way too big of world-changing crap, and it's like, no. Star Trek Next Generation was like the United Nations. Yeah, Star Trek had the original cell phone. Oh yes, I played and watched Dragon Age. Dragon Age is so good. Where to watch the Orville? Diego, I have all of it. I can get it for you. Someone says it's on Disney Plus. I believe it's on Hulu, which might be on Hulu. Maybe that's on Disney Plus. I don't know. Yes, Tom Baker in Doctor Who. Tom Baker all the way. Everybody loves Tom Baker. He was awesome. Gattaca is one of the finest movies, underrated. Gattaca with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, who got together because of that movie, had a daughter, Maya Hawke, who's in Stranger Things, an awesome sci-fi on its own. Diego says, not really a tough nut. Ask me about martial arts or coding and you won me over. All right, guys, we're down to 23 people. I've been on for 2.5 hours. I have people waiting for me to take them home, and I have a customer who is pestering me for work that I promised I would do this evening. I did not think this was going to be so popular. Super excited that we have well over 400 views at just 2.5 hours, which is amazing. E.R. Werman points out that the Witcher games are awesome as well, most notably the third one, which has the unbelievable scene of the guy by the tree, and he's like, and the Witcher comes to kill him, and the guy's like, I thought you didn't kill people. Or, what are you doing? I thought you didn't kill people. He's like, I'm not. I'm killing monsters. And yeah, I love the Witcher series. I need to play all the Witcher games, and that'd be awesome. Jan says, and I'm tired. Elvis says, good night. Jan says, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Remember to hit that thumbs up. Remember to join us Thursdays for the long live stream. That's the big one. Remember to hit the thumbs up. I said that. I can't really think of much of anything else. This has been a fantastic night. Really appreciate everyone being on.